Now, it's not like the Panthers ran away and hid in this series, but they were the feistier, more energetic, more opportunistic team. And your man, Sergei Bobrovsky, how weird would this be? You've been writing this man's obituary, writing this man's epitaph since he signed with the team. It seemed like a good idea for what, about 10 minutes, Libby, until we saw him play?
I don't know. You were ahead of me. You started calling him blind. You swore that he had that vision problem.
Yes, we signed a guy with a cataract. Unbelievable. A tick, I think we discovered. Did he have a tick? Yeah, he had one of those things where it does like some weird winking all of a sudden. And you're thinking, are you trying to tell me, like that you're saying something, but you really don't mean it? What is it that you're doing, Bobrovsky? Communicate with him. He was communicating with his banker. That's all anybody was talking about. That he was making his $10 million that Dale Talon doled out for him when he could have signed any number of other attractive free agents.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
And a very pleasant and groggy good morning, everybody. Good to be with you here on the Defo Show, a Friday edition. That means it's a Degenerate Friday, which you'd have to ask yourself, why is this day different from all other days? I don't know that it really does differ much, but how many of you, and we asked this question earlier on Defo on 5, and I think it's the most relevant question of the day, is it not, for the South Florida sports fans out there, of which I believe comprise the majority of our audience here on South Florida Live, as you might imagine. For our South Florida audience, how many of you, be honest now, made it to the end? How many made it to the fourth overtime period of the Panthers game last night against the Carolina Hurricanes? This is one of those, like we always say, Lubie, you want to see one first, and then you can start to formulate some more definitive deductions about what's going to happen in the series. Now, you would have to say, after they go into the late stages, the final seconds of the fourth overtime to decide the opening game of the series, here's my first deduction, Lubie. These two teams are fairly evenly matched. Is that a fair statement? Am I out on a limb? Am I out on the edge on that? Am I going Stephen A. Smith? Am I, making some outrageous claim like Skip Bayless does every time he mentions LeBron James' name, that maybe he's not that good? To say that these two teams at this stage of the postseason appear to be very evenly matched. You think that's a good one?
I think Eddie O should watch his back.
Yes.
Defo's
Don
coming.
Cherry, go fuck yourself. I am the man now. These two teams appear to be evenly matched. It took 4 overtimes to decide this thing. I made it to 3 of them. I actually watched the game intently through 3 overtimes. I blew off some stuff that I was going to do earlier in the evening because I got back home too late, and the game was about to start in a half hour, and I thought, I don't want to miss any of this. And I'm glad that I didn't, but it did get to be a bit cumbersome towards the end of, the first overtime period. I can usually go into the second one, and I hope they score quickly if I have an interest in a game like that. Now, if you had a betting interest in the game, you were absolutely living and dying. I don't know if anybody made it through. If you had the Panthers on the money line in that game, which I would assume a lot of people went along with that. We refuse to believe in our local teams, even as they're accomplishing monumental things in the world of sport. Right? I mean, they are overcoming all of the obstacles that impeded them during the course of the regular season. This is a whole different team, both of them, right? Miami Heat and the Florida Panthers. Would you agree? All of a sudden, we have the best goaltender in the postseason in Sergei Bobrovsky. This was a guy, as evidenced in that clip, was a subject of so much derision and ridicule. You almost felt like it was Sammy Smith type of unmerciful behavior towards a player. So what? It's a game.
I hate him.
We were getting De Niro-esque in The Fan talking about this guy. Every single time his name came up, you made a face.
Hated him.
And I would go off on my usual, contingent of, and repertoire of lame jokes about goaltenders, right? Couldn't stop a watermelon, couldn't stop a bowling ball.
No, you were worse. You said, why would they get a guy who's blind?
I believed he had glaucoma in his right eye. All of a sudden, all these goals are coming right over his right shoulder there.
You in Jersey said.
I thought that he had a tick. I did. I thought he was one of those guys that had one of those things. That, you don't want to mention, to anybody like, hey, is there something wrong with you? What was he that way when he was signing that $10 million contract a year for 7 years, $70 million commitment? Dale Talon, I mean, was the scourge of South Florida for signing this guy. Had Panarin? Is that how you pronounce the guy's name on the Rangers? What was like,
Yeah.
who hasn't really been all that dynamite for the Rangers? Been okay. But the Rangers, is he a coach killer, this guy? I don't think so, right? But they ended up firing their coach for like the third time in the last 6 or 7 years. Pretty incredible. Bobrovsky here now 4 years, and had gotten to the point where the last guy you wanted to see on the ice was Sergei Bobrovsky in any capacity. You didn't even want him coming out there with the crew that sweeps up the shavings after there's a stoppage in play. You didn't even want him out there with a shovel. You were afraid somebody was going to get hurt.
Line was giving up stupid ass goals, but they would be like 2 or 3. So I'm like, okay, Bobrovsky is going to give up 6. So I'd rather take the 2 or 3 stupid ass goals to Bobrovsky's 5. And that one game they won it, but he gave up 5 goals that I thought were ridiculous. And I'm like, see, you should put Line back in. And then from that point on,
who seems to be more peculiar? What would it be? Goaltenders, field goal kickers,
closers,
or knuckleballers?
See, I guess you're right, knuckleballers are the ones they did the whole thing about, right?
Knuckleballers are insane. Think about that. You're lobbing the ball up there to major league hitters and saying, look at this, man. You can hit a 102-mile-an-hour fastball and turn it around and hit it 500 feet, Mike Trout, but you can't hit this shit. Knuckleballs.
They're weird. Yeah,
but they're a little quirky, these guys, right? They're filing their nails while everybody else is chowing down. I mean, they have all kinds of weird, Hrotsky type activity on the mound. And you would be afraid to throw the next pitch, wouldn't you? Thinking that it was going to be a line drive right in your forehead. It was more likely to happen. You're lobbing it up there at 67 miles an hour. Get out of here with that. Who are you, Bert Hooton with the knuckle curve? Then you got variations on a theme. They're pretty weird. Field goal kickers, obviously you're iced. Not only throughout the whole game. I mean, why do you need to ice a guy who's been sitting on the sidelines for 55 minutes? Think about that. And then he comes out on the field finally, and you're thinking, now's the time to let him attempt a kick. That's for sure. And then you go, timeout. That's it. Another brilliant move there by Nick Saban. Look at that. He's icing the kicker.
I hate that. And it rarely works, too.
It never works.
You're so against it. It's like, you're just wasting your time, you douchebag.
If he was going to miss it after you iced him, he probably was going to miss it anyway.
Yes. Exactly.
And how many times have you seen the guy miss it? And then, it turns out he was being iced. And then he comes right back and boom, from 55 yards away, right through the middle. An incredible kick here.
I hate it.
Yeah. And that's going to win the ball game. That's going to do it for baseball and Valentine. It's all over.
Supposedly goalies are pretty freaking weird.
They have to be. They have to be.
They are pretty weird.
Yeah.
Like, it's a firing squad. Your job is facing a firing
squad. You're Gary Gilmore. You really are. Standing there, and the state of Utah has decided that you should no longer exist, you scumbag. And they start firing pucks at you, one after another at 150 miles an hour. It's incredible. Holy Bobby Hull, what are we looking at here? Bobrovsky, went from, a complete bum. This guy was finished. He was on the bench for a journeyman.
Yes.
This Alex Lyon that you mentioned had played like 35 total games in the NHL, and you're going to start him against the Boston Bruins, against the, as opposed to the 2-time Vezina Trophy winner. That is the MVP of goaltending, my friends. Unbelievable.
Yes.
And rightfully so. Bobrovsky, literally, when we talked with Jeff Rimmer, he was there for that series where Bobrovsky just stood on his head through 2 series and got the Columbus Blue Jackets to the conference finals that year. And he kind of was the whole reason. I mean, they didn't have shit on that team. Columbus Blue Jackets. Oh, they had Gretzky? What do I know? Now I'm an expert on Columbus Blue Jackets of like 10 years ago. Incredible. But, wow, I mean, could you not have played? The guy couldn't have done much more in this game. The 2 goals he gave up were legit. And then, you were looking at the officials were piling it on the Florida Panthers, according to most, and including disallowing a goal in overtime. That could have given us a whole lot more rest, Lubie, because the game was going to end that way anyway. Didn't they realize that? Couldn't they just have said, all right, it's close?
I mean, they did. They gave it to him.
Take the goal. Let's get out of here. Let's go home.
The announcers and the referee guy were like, yeah, he shoved him into him. Yeah, I could see them giving it to him. They started talking themselves into the fact that it was going to be a goal, and then they came back. It was very.
I thought it was debatable.
It was definitely debatable, and I was just frustrated because they talked me into it. Like listening to them talking
Yeah.
is what I saw in my eyes. They're like, yeah, the defender pushes the guy into the goalie and you have to make an effort to leave. The guy didn't just stand there. Like the guy ran out of the way. Okay, so it must be a goal. And they called it a goal, which in other sports is the most important thing. If whatever they call, unless it's egregious, you don't overturn it. That's the game. And then as they're saying it and I'm believing it, and Mayo's texting, they can't disallow this. It's like the Mayo factor. Right when Mayo said they can't disallow it, they go to the ref on the ice. The goal.
As soon as that text came, I knew they were going to disallow it.
Like the minute it was right when he
Yeah.
texted it, I'm like, no, man.
That's when I said, okay, fire up the TV again there, I told the dog we're going to stay awake a little while longer, man, because this game's going to continue. You did not expect it to continue not only into the middle of the night, but into the next morning, the middle of the next morning. And I don't know. I tried to look it up if there's any cutoff. Is there no curfew in Carolina? Don't they have to end public events at a certain time? I guess they hadn't gotten there yet because it was about 1:30. Was it 1:30 in the morning that the game finally ended? Somewhere around there.
Arnie finished it. I think it had.
Well, Sarny, I mean, that's,
Oh, he's
he's going to watch that because he probably at the same time simultaneously is watching, women's, junior varsity bowling on the phone. This guy doesn't miss anything. He's great. Ultimate sports fan, Jim Sarny. I turned it off after 3 overtimes because I couldn't take it anymore. I figured, okay, try to get some sleep. I actually took some like knockout drops here, that tincture of marijuana, and that works pretty well. If you can get that, get yourself, the legal marijuana card, medical marijuana card, and buy some of this shit if you're having trouble sleeping, which Lubie and I only get to sleep in short spurts sometimes. So, you have to, it's one of those things when you get up really early in the morning, you people know that because you're up early now watching this.
Yeah.
Right. But, if you're getting up at like 4:30 in the morning, 5:30, hideous times that you get up to go to work, depending on the job that you have, you're looking at the clock at 1:00 and going, okay, if I fall asleep right now,
I get to do that all.
I can get 4.5 hours sleep. And then, you're still up an hour later. If I fall asleep right now, I can get 3.5 hours sleep. And I'm not one that really has trouble sleeping for the most part. I used to be able to fall asleep virtually anywhere, anytime. And, I've slept through a good portion of what could have been a much more lucrative and busy life. That, and you don't want to think that there's plenty of time to make this up, right? Once you're under the ground here. Or, as I will be, spread along the 16th pole at Gulfstream Park. Can I spread a few? Ask Frank Fiore if it's cool if I spread a few.
A little highly, yeah.
I'd like to be buried there also. Yeah, that would be great.
Up a little bit.
Buried there many times, as I was at Gulfstream. They should give you your total as you walk in, shouldn't they? Your lifetime total of losses, if they could keep track of such things.
Why do you want that?
By the way, Mr. DeForest, are you sure you want to come in today? Exactly. Which we will be at Gulfstream Park later on, and we have the Preakness coming up to discuss. So anyway, I mean, how good was that? Bobrovsky finished. I mean, a guy that, you didn't even want to see this guy. You never wanted to hear his name mentioned. You were hoping the Panthers would find a way to mercifully trade him and or just outright cut the guy. He was useless garbage there. Never mind the $10 million. Vinny's got plenty of money. If it impacts your salary cap, figure out another way around it if you can, all right? Apply to the league for some kind of relief, and they probably would have given it to you saying, oh, well, geez, $10 million are going to Bobrovsky. They probably would have given you an extra $10 million against the cap just to keep the league competitive. They do like parity, which we're seeing. So a great game last night, 4 overtimes, didn't make it to the 4th one. We do know a couple of people that did. If you did, were you richly rewarded for staying up? I guess so. My favorite aspect of the whole game, among many, I guess, but this was the best thing. As I was about to pass out there, I see them posting the odds during the intermission show, which on TNT is very good, by the way. And they had Wayne Gretzky as their special guest. Their TNT hockey show is right up there. I think, it's a different language and a whole different vernacular. So, and the analysis, I mean, who knows if the guy's right or not, right? When they go to the grease board there and they go, well, this guy's got to come down here. And then this guy smashes a guy into the boards. And then the other guy on the other side of the ice, he has to come across there. And all the action is behind the net. And you're like, what? It's definitely not. I mean, you can see patterns after you watch a bunch of hockey. Yeah, I mean, you kind of know what's going to happen. Did I say hockey? After you watch a bunch of hockey, you can kind of see what's going on, right? Can you sense what the guy's going to do many times with the puck? The amazing thing is these players' ability to pass their puck and then to receive passes and control the puck immediately, puck management. But it is pretty incredible, but it does seem like it goes to certain spots, much like a basketball game after you watch it for a while. Correct? Does it not take on a little bit of definition what they're doing out there or attempting to do? Doesn't look like just an endless, reckless scrum, as many people perceive the game to be. Action very fast paced. So all of you soccer people that want to say, "Well, how exciting was that, Defo? They didn't score for 8 hours." But it was exciting, was it not?
Their shots, though, like soccer,
They were firing shots at these guys. 60-something shots, I think Bobrovsky stopped in the game.
Yes, he had over 60 saves.
I mean, and they weren't like, Mickey Mouse shots, most of these. They were rockets. They were point-blank range. They were breakaways. It was all right in front of the net, two guys slapping at the puck. Bobrovsky, just snaps it out of the air there, snatches it away, and, it just played a brilliant game. So that's the good start, all right? The good part of the story is that our goalie is the hottest goalie in the playoffs right now by far.
Yep.
And now it's our goalie.
Yeah.
And the Panthers, I mean, was that a pivotal game one or what, Lubie? How deflated are you after you lose that game if you're Carolina? On your home ice, when you were up, in the game early on, weren't they up? Yeah, they were up 1-0.
Yes.
Early on in the game. The Panthers came back, got 2, and then Carolina tied it up early in the third. And that was it. Another hour of hockey without a single goal. But many, many chances on both sides. Anderson was just as good, with the exception of the fact that, what is it? 160 minutes into the game, he finally gave up a goal. You can't really fault him there. And Tkachuk was 9-1 to be the guy that would score the game-winning goal. That was posted in overtime. How broke is America going to be, Mr. Degenerate Friday? If this is what's happening, right? The TNT guys, they finish up their analysis. Gretzky, and Gretzky, I think, even had Janet Jones come on and recommend that you bet Verhaeghe at plus 1,200.
That would have been the move with all the gambling talk. They go to Gretzky.
I mean, how intertwined with what's going on? It's part of the natural running commentary now on network television.
Yep.
To ante up again during the game like you haven't lost enough money already in your lifetime. They have to find new ways to separate you from your cash. Would you? I see now. I would have not taken Tkachuk to score that game-winning goal, even at the generous offering of 9-1, only because he was the favorite, and my natural resentment of betting the chalk, which I'm going to dodge doing in the Preakness as well. I think I'm going to bet against Mage, and figure that Mage is somewhere maybe second or third.
Do we ever hear from Polyman? Because the Ken Man was asking, and
I did not get a hold of Polyman, but I will get his picks.
Which one of his plays? He killed it in the. I mean, verifying the one he really liked was up the track.
I hear his temperament for this.
Yeah.
Well, I really don't like the race that much. Small opinion here. I say take this horse that's 15-1,
and then of course he jogs. I'll send him a text, see if he can come on. I don't know about today, but we'll get his picks. We'll try and get his picks for the. We'll tell him by public demand, popular demand.
Yeah, he did well.
They won six.
Everyone but me scored, and I at least got 2 of the 3.
You were in the ballpark, Libby. I mean, you were right there
because of him. Like he killed it.
Do we play the if game? If the 11 had run second, Libby. Oh my God, I was so rich.
I was pissed. I was like,
so rich.
Where did the fucking 3 come from?
The 3, I wouldn't have included myself. That was definitely the work of my partner, Piscataway Ray, on that. Because and I capitulated to him and threw out verifying on his recommendation because he was in love with 2 fills.
That's good.
But he liked that disarm horse, which we crushed this horse. If he runs second in the exacta, my God, it would have probably been worth. It would have emptied up the payoff, no matter who finished third on the trifecta. And then we would have collected about 20 dimes on the exacta. That would have been unbelievable.
Got up late. It just didn't finish the job.
Yeah, it wasn't really that big of a threat, to be honest with you. I mean, I wish it was closer. The fact that I see this horse coming on, I was just hoping he would somehow end up third in the tribe, which would have been enormous if it was an Angel of Empire third. But, yeah, I mean, if he had hit the exacta, that would have been it. Those opportunities, I don't think, are there in a Preakness. I mean, obviously, there's
8 horses?
A much smaller field, 8 horses. Many people are picking, and they're all new entries except for Mage. So we didn't see any of these horses in the Kentucky Derby. Let me see. So, okay, here you go. Everybody likes First Mission. That's the new hot horse here. First mission is a horse that is by Magdaglia Dioro in the Bloodlines. Street Sense, the sire. Right horse, right time. That's what this guy says. Excuse me. First mission. I don't know about that. My friend Piscataway Ray likes Perform. 15-1 morning line. Has a shot. This guy, Vic Cangelosi, I don't know if this is good or not because he's usually ice cold, but he has him picked for second. And now with Mage running third. So he's got first mission, Perform, and that this is in the newspaper here. And this handicapper happens to be ice cold. I don't know that I've seen a colder guy since Paul LaDuca was in that Saratoga shootout. And the first day, he bet his whole $200 bankroll on a horse that happened to win, and it paid like $33.60. So he was immediately up like what? That would be $3,000. So he was way out front from the imaginary bankroll that they had of like $200, and never picked another winner the rest of the meet. Blank for the next 57 days. LaDuca, who looks like a wreck, by the way, on TVG. He really does. I mean, no, he's not on TVG. He's on Fox Sports 2 when they televise Belmont and Churchill.
Okay.
And they have him. It is amazing, the transition from Churchill Downs. You see it on Derby Day? I mean, doesn't it look amazing?
Yeah, it's
like
gorgeous.
a slice of Americana that, Norman Rockwell should have been doing paintings there if he hadn't already. And then, you see it like on a regular weekday, like yesterday. Not a soul to be seen in the stand.
Yeah, it's empty.
Dead fucking empty, man. Must be a basketball game going on somewhere in Louisville that everybody was attending. All right, so coming back, the Greek's going to join us in a few minutes.
Yes.
We'll get our degenerate aspect of Degenerate Friday going. 4 overtimes last night. Cats 3, Carolina 2. Barkov, Verhage, and Kachuk with the game winner at plus 900. In overtime, the officials, everybody was screaming about. And, maybe for good reason, the cross-check by Ekblad that led to that 5-on-3, that seemed a little dicey, didn't it?
When do you get a 5-on-3 in the playoffs at all? But the Eastern Conference Finals is supposed to be like what the overtimes were.
That nudge in the back, man. And I have great respect now for the French Joe Philbin, Paul Maurice, who literally teed off on the referees like he was Dan Campbell with a
He was letting it fly.
red-faced boil. I mean, it was incredible watching him. And you could read his lips. And he was just telling these guys that, after the period was over, it was towards the end of the period, but after the period, that was in the beginning of the period. After it was over, he was just livid. And, I think he was just about to grab one of the officials by the striped zebra shirt there, and off the ice. I mean, these guys can curse in hockey too, having had Bruce Boudreau mic'd up many times. But I have never seen a guy more angry about a call than Paul Maurice, and he showed it, which was good. And I think he got a makeup call later on. His bitching at the officials, I think, had some impact. Although very few penalties were called in the game, and very few whistles were blown. Period.
Which is
Puck
good.
wasn't even on the ice anymore, and they were letting him play. It was incredible. It was in the crowd. I loved that game last night. Heat Celtics tonight, and we'll get into that with the Greek. I'm sure he'll be all over that. Denver over the Lakers last night. A good friend of ours had, I think, a fairly significant amount of money. Maybe he was just, playing lightly because he wanted to have some action. The Nuggets were laying 6 in this game. And, of course, they win by 5.
Oh, wow. Oh, my God, they didn't cover.
Such ugliness. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Jamal Murray, 37. LeBron James, it was kind of a quiet 22, 9, and 10 for LeBron James. Can you have a quiet triple-double? Because Jokic did.
Jokic did. I thought Jokic did nothing. They're like, yeah, you got another triple-double. I'm like,
seems like he wasn't even in the game, didn't it? 23 points, 17 rebounds, 12 assists, and we're looking at this guy like he did nothing.
I'm like,
come on, Jokic, pick it up. Are you into this or not? You want to win this series?
That's 100% what he said. I'm like, triple-double.
Looking very strongly like the favorite to win it all, though. No, the Denver Nuggets.
Yes, I said that from the beginning. Actually, they just need to be healthy, and they are. Yeah. They just have a lot of guys.
I would have been blown out of my golf pool. And I was blown out of my $20 bet that I gave you to give to the professor there on Jason Day. Yeah. Plus 6 opening round. John Rahm plus 6 opening round. So I would have had those two guys, Rahm and Jason Day. So I would have been plus 12 right away. But the pool, it had to be a very challenging. A lot of people probably got buried with Rahm, maybe even with Day a little bit because he was hot. He was a logical guy, except for very hard to win back-to-back tournaments on the PGA Tour. You'll see people get hot. And maybe for a period of 3-4 tournaments, they're up there, and then they fade back a little bit. But I thought, maybe Day was a good play because he'd been rounding into form and knocking on the door in the last couple of years. And then all of a sudden, he won again, and I thought maybe that would inspire him. clearly not thinking was that of a pathetic, broken, and self-sabotaging fool. I did like Dustin Johnson in this thing, and he's -3. And right up there on the leaderboard. Who's Eric Cole? Does anybody know?
Never heard that name.
I've never heard of the guy.
I've never heard that name.
He's still got his round to complete there. I think he was through 14 holes. He was 5 under par, so he might go even lower. But then again, could blow a gasket at any time there in Rochester. Bryson DeChambeau, man, you say he doesn't look like DeChambeau's anymore with all beefed up.
I just know that
he got off the juice.
I haven't seen it. Ken's going to talk about it later on, so I don't want to steal any of his shine.
Oh yeah, okay.
Do something with it. So I'll leave it alone. But he just said something, and I'm like, and I didn't even look it up. I'm like, I'm just gonna leave it alone. But I was like, yeah, that makes sense though.
When he went Tony Mandarich, remember when they stuck a pin in Tony Mandarich, and he went from like a hulking 320 that could easily, strike fear into the heart of Olympic weightlifters like Valery Alexeyev when he was around. Yep. And you would go, who wants to go against this guy? And then all of a sudden, he was like a waif like 190, and he couldn't block his grandmother. That wasn't a very astute pick. One of the all-time great draft busts, right? Tony Mandarich, was that number 2 overall in the NFL draft, 2 or 3? I want to say. But yeah, I mean, once he got off the juice there and had to be tested, that was it. He was finished. He kind of looked like some of these baseball players do after Brady Anderson, I guess, would be the greatest example. When they started testing, he went from 50 home runs to 6. That was quite a drop off after he'd never hit more than like 10 homers in a season. Remember the one year Brady Anderson had like 50 home runs? Incredible for the Orioles.
Yeah. That was when the Roy. He was like
not that the juice made any difference. There's no evidence of that whatsoever.
He was a skinny dude, and then he got jacked, and then hit 50. He hit like 20 home runs max, and then or like 8. It was like some stupid number.
You think Dan Uggla was juicing when he was with the Marlins?
I don't know. Uggla, his forearms were. I saw him in person a few times. Yeah. That dude was like my height. And like 230. I'm like, dude.
We should just do a show called "Who's Juicing," with before and after pictures, and especially now when you see some of these guys that were very prominent, and that they literally have trimmed down to the point where you're thinking, "Are you okay? What happened to you?" All right, we're coming back with the Greek. The Greek probably all over the Miami Heat. I mean, think about this: if you're on these local teams. 7 straight road games. If you just parlayed $100 on that, the Panthers would have been underdogs in every game. Relatively significant underdogs, like 3-2 underdogs in virtually every game on the road, and they've won 7 in a row. So if you had started that streak then, you'd be okay. And that theory immediately debunked by that guy, Michael LeBoff of the Barry America campaign, Action Sports. His theory was, Carolina wins game 1, then jump on the Panthers because they're the better team.
I mean, maybe.
But now what do you do?
I'm not going to be mad that they won. Yeah. You can still jump on them.
But not at the same price. The whole angle went right out the window there. The sick degenerate. Let's get cute. Let's complicate the issue. It's hard enough to pick a winner, so let's make it even more difficult. Very good. Way to go. Nice piece of advice there from the betting sites. All right, we're coming back with the Greek in a moment here on the Defo Show. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll also have the professor with the big board later on, Mike Mayo, the gambling gourmet. And I don't know what kind of BS he's trying to represent. Did you see that yesterday with this Burt Rappaport? It was embarrassing the way he was ordering food. And even Rappaport said, hey, have a French fry, you fucking prick.
What do you mean? He was eating a wrap with a fork and a knife without eating the wrap. This is the man that would take a sandwich,
prides himself on being a slob,
dunk it in stuff with his fingers, lick the fingers, and then shove the sandwich down his throat in a way that we
with a plunger,
a crocodile or a snake.
Yes.
Now he's cutting up fucking shrimp in a
cutting
wrap.
Lettuce up and eating it with a fork.
Like, what are you doing? I'm like, even Barack was like, dude, come on.
Yeah, that was embarrassing yesterday. That was. I mean, otherwise it was just pure unadulterated fun. Great food and drink and a great time. We thank Bert for having us in there. This was at Deck 84 in Delray Beach. Dick Steen looks like he owns Delray, doesn't he? Doesn't he look like the type of guy that pulls up in a Porsche, owns the city?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. It's not the way Mayo describes him is not the way he actually is. He seems a lot more laid back, a lot more, big mocker. Mayo describes him very differently.
Yes.
I'm like
an obsessively, neurotic nebbish. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm Okay, Mayo.
Not sure he's not projecting a little of himself into Dickstein, no?
Let's say, are you sure that's him or you?
Yeah, he'll be mad at us for saying that. All right, he's not here to defend himself, so let's move on. We'll be back with more in a moment. Now that.
The time.
It was ugliness, though. It's 7:31.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched. Steaks hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Young blood in the announcing booth. It's a possibility. They've gone with the hot chick theory, which, works for me, as they say.
Of course.
Yeah.
When I go down to Miami, that's all I do is I put the weather on. I shut off the sound. It's awesome.
Yeah, it could be snowing outside. You don't care. You don't want to hear what the
Who
person has to
cares?
say.
It's now time for the Defo Show. Welcome back to the Defo Show.
Welcome back to the show. A brilliant Degenerate Friday here on the Defo Show. Very happy to have you with us. The professor coming up later on, the gambling gourmet, Mike Mayo. And, of course, it's always a pleasure on these Fridays to welcome to the program one of our great friends from the industry. One of the good things that happened, Lubie and I were discussing how, there was always some sort of anxiety associated with our 11-and-a-half-year run at 940 WINZ, and then subsequent to that, a little simulcast going at 1230 The Zone. And one of the great things that happened, though, during that period of time, although we figured he was probably being primed to take over our spot, but we liked him anyway, see? And that's the thing. If a guy's that good of a guy, you don't even mind if he's there
And blame him.
to sabotage your career. But it was never his design to do that. We thought maybe the program director might be inclined to say, guess what? You guys are working nights now, and this guy's taking over the morning. The Greek joins us here on the show. You were a favorite son of the program director at 940 Wins. That's for sure. And I imagine still are. I mean, were there ever any advances, inappropriate advances made by her towards you? Greek, how are you, my friend?
I am great. Yeah, management always liked me because I was a cash cow. I mean, who's kidding who?
Yeah.
You know, they don't shoot the cash cow. I mean, that's what it was. You got cash, you're a smash, you're broke, you're a joke. People like me for whatever reason. I brought in a lot of money, and I did a good job. Pretty simple.
Yes, and still there. I mean, which is great. Although I keep turning in, to 1230 The Zone, I believe, or now it's called The Gambler, which is even better, even more up our alley. So it's a good thing we're gone. And let's face it, Greek, why would you want to have local programming on an all-sports station in Miami at this time of the year when you could have a nice national show talking about whether the Cleveland Browns made the right choice in the draft this year?
I agree 100%. You know, everybody makes decisions. Obviously, for all of us, that wasn't a good decision. I always said I enjoyed my time with you guys. One of the best I've ever had in local radio. You guys were great from day one. You and Lubie. And we just connected. But that's like anything else in life. You can bump on somebody in a plane or out in a restaurant. Some people you connect with. The cigar bar. You know, some guys or, people you just connect with. We did from day one. And also our good friend Mike always told us.
Mike Nyman at the track.
Like somebody, Mike was like somebody who was trying to like fix you up with a girl. You know,
Yeah.
you were dated. They're like, oh,
You
you
this guy.
go out with. Yeah. And that's what he always told me. He would say, oh, my God, Greek, you guys would hit it off. And then, we had no clue about it. And then they brought us in. And then obviously they gave me the afternoons after a couple of years, which was fun. I miss, Ricardo did a great job. But, yeah, it was a great run. I mean, I really enjoyed myself, and I had a great time. You guys, you were the best to work with. I know yesterday, I think you had one of my friends on your show, Bert.
Bert Rappaport's great.
Oh, yeah, Bert Rappaport. Yeah, great guy. Wow, what stories, huh?
Yeah, great friend of mine. We do a lot of shows at his place, Bert Max's in Delray. Really
Nice.
great guy.
Yeah, we were at Deck 84 yesterday, and, we were talking about his early days when the Cocaine Cowboys were the main clientele at his place, Rascals. And he had literally, by complete accident, made the Miami Sound Machine with Gloria Estefan and Emilio the house band at Rascals, and he said that's what really launched his career. He was sleeping on the couch at his mother's house before that, wondering if he was going to be able to pay the rent, and then he said he asked some student who was working there as a busboy at Rascals, "Hey, you know any musicians? I'd like to maybe try bringing in a band, beef up the crowd at night." And it turned out to be Emilio Estefan and John Cicada.
Yeah,
became the house band there. It was like Vanilla Fudge at the Action House on Long Island. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, he had a place in Glades for years, Chamberlain's, Will Chamberlain.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. I used to frequent that place because they were very popular with kids because they had all of the rip-off games, including Skill Crane there.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Good friend of mine. Nice guy. We just did a show at his place, but good guy.
Raffles it was. Raffles,
really.
not White Rascals. Raffles.
Yeah, just a great guy. So what do you think? What's going on? Heaters going to win tonight and cover again? My God, they are a machine. Them and the Panthers, if you're just betting them, you're crushing.
Wow. I mean, did you just go to bed after watching a game, Greek? Did you make it to the end?
I'm not a big hockey fan. I mean, I watch
No.
a little. I'm not a big hockey guy, but I'm rooting for them. I really am rooting for them. I like to see them win it all. We carry the Panthers now on Real Radio at night.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it's, I hope they do well. Obviously, I think it's great for the team, and again, it's the one thing we're seeing in the playoffs is you just got to make the dance. That's it.
That's it.
I mean, the Panthers, they backed in. They shouldn't even have been there. The Heat, another one, they play in that other game, and now they're up on the Celtics 1-0. It's crazy. I mean, it's just crazy. It's crazy. Two crazy things that I wanted to talk to you about. The NBA coaches, the way they get fired.
Yeah.
All four of them should have never got fired. All four of them. And even the Bucks coach. I know he lost the Heat, but the guy wins the championship. And the whole John Morant thing with Silver. And what do you think his suspension is going to be? I'm betting 40 games is the over-under.
That could be.
That's about right.
People are speculating like 25 games, something in that neighborhood, half a season.
That's about right.
The problem that you have if you're trying to defend John Morant, which is not easy to do, after they literally just sat the guy down, they sent him to counseling, they suspended him 8 games. It was at a crucial point in the season. It did. I would have to think foul up overall.
Yeah,
playoff chances, of beating the Lakers, and that's in the first round of the postseason with a real good Memphis team. And, they told the guy, hey, don't let this happen again. I mean, sometimes, you have to abide by whatever it is. I mean, you're making $100 million and, while Ron DeSantis is recommending that every 5-year-old carry a gun in his backpack instead of books, it's not a good look for the NBA to have this, kind of thing emerging again a second time in a short period of time. And, you're basically spitting in the face of the commissioner in the league at that point, and all of their sponsors by just saying, you know what, I know you just told me to stop this, but I'm going to go ahead and do it again right away anyway.
Well, the NBA lost a little bit years ago, maybe 7-10 years ago, when they let the players control the league. That's what they do. That whole thing of them controlling the coaches, even they're saying Doc Rivers now because Harden didn't like them. I mean, all that stuff that they're letting them do. Yeah, he's got to get suspended at least 40 games, at least.
I think so, yeah.
And, if he does. And the thing with Silver is he looks like the guy that, fixes your computer.
Yes.
He's a obviously very intelligent guy. And he's also, I think, got a very hard nose. And he doesn't want to hurt the brand like Goodell with the Shield. Yeah. So I do think that he's going to come down. I mean, they had him on the other night and he said, I was in shock. What I thought when I saw it personally, that was like an old story kicked up again. I'm like, what are they talking about this again for? This is on?
Yes.
You know what I mean? But it was. And it's just a shame that, and they say his dad's not great, like is a little bit of a pain in the ass with him. So, I mean, I don't know. But I think 40 games would be the least I would suspend him.
Well, you question the sincerity. I know people, go to rehab for alcohol, drugs, God forbid, gambling. You have a problem. And they say, okay, I've learned my lesson. I'm never going to do this again. And then the second they get out of the treatment, or maybe a short time after, they're out there doing even more outrageous things. We've seen it. We've all had friends that unfortunately were victimized by those circumstances. But in this case, I mean, this wasn't something that necessarily had to be some habitual thing that was going to be very hard to break. I mean, from a psychological standpoint, they told him, hey, don't do this again. Don't be on video brandishing a gun and waving it around. I mean, what are you, O.J. Simpson in the back of a Bronco? What's going on here, Rashad? We can't have this.
Well, I mean, everybody knows the same thing. Whether you had a problem or you didn't have a problem, whatever it is in life, if you want to stop something, A, you got to want to stop it, A, and B, the people that were around you that enable you or help you, or you gotta drop. And if you don't do that, it's done. I mean, that's just what it is. I don't care who it is. It could be going out at night. It could be drinking. It could be anything. You're doing it with somebody. My dad always said it. There's somebody you're with. You know what I'm saying? You can't play catch alone. So if he really wanted to step away, he'd have said to the guys, hey, you know what? I can't do this anymore. I'm sorry. I'm done.
Yeah.
But he doesn't do that. And, I mean, if you're not enabling, if you have the same people around you, I mean, every day if you jump in a pool, what's going to happen? You're going to get wet. So, I mean, he needs to be sit down for a good 40 games, I think. And I think that's what the commissioner will do. Because if he doesn't do it, he makes the league look bad. And the other thing with the NBA, not only do they make billions of dollars here, they make billions of dollars in Europe, all over the world, China. They don't want anything tarnished. They just don't. So, to me, I mean, there's no, he put out another statement. I'm sorry, and nobody believes me. No, nobody does believe me at this point. And I love the Memphis Grizzlies. This is what they suspend them for activities. What, the barbecues? What the hell is that? I would have laughed. I would have been like, yeah, it's like iHeart saying you can't come to work on Sunday. I don't work Sunday. Are you kidding me? He's suspended for all activities. What are you guys doing right now? Volleyball?
Yeah.
I mean, so it is a bad thing. I think the suspension comes after the NBA Finals because I don't think they want people to talk about it. Me personally, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I can't imagine it won't be a lengthy one. Half a season would not be outrageous. I think under the circumstances, they already suspended them 8 games before. So and the quick turnaround here, and the nature of the thing too. I mean, this is just absolutely stupid stuff that this guy is doing. And like you said, they're a brand, the NBA, that exceeds the sum of the parts there, the overall brand that the NBA is trying to sell in Europe and all of these other places, including the United States, of course. It does not, fit well with the image it's projecting. Yeah,
nope.
For sure. Yeah, that's crazy stuff. That thing about always getting wet when you jump in a pool, though, Greek, there was the time that one of my ex-wives, I won't say or specify which one, was in cahoots with the pool guy, and she knew I always dove in blindly, just went running and did a cannonball out of the house. And, of course, she had the pool drained before one of my sessions. Yeah.
Anytime you have a conversation with anybody and they say male or female, and they say one of my ex-husbands or ex-wives, you got to walk away.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, they always jumping in, what I thought was a shallow end there, but it was
like my buddy. He talked about the casinos in Vegas. I can't go back there. I got kicked out of here. I'm not allowed there. I'm like, oh my God, what the hell's going on?
You're in a black book like Joe Pesci.
Yeah, Preakness tomorrow. Bet a couple long shots, about 4 of them.
Okay, what do you think, man? My buddy Piscataway Ray likes a horse called Perform. Now, you don't do any handicapping. This is just based on the fact that you think the public is dead wrong, which is good. Nice assumption. But 15-1 morning line, the 6 ball. Are you going to include that in your thinking?
Yeah, I already bet the 2, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay, so you left out like the 3 favorites. That was it. You put a stick each on all of those horses. The 2 is 50-1. Yeah. Chase to Chaos, which is what we've been doing our entire careers. The 4, Coffee with Chris. Never heard of the horse. 20-1. Not bad. What was it? The 4, 5, and 6.
Yes.
Yeah.
5. The 5's 10-1. Red Route 1 has a shot there. That was a Mayo special. Perform, my bunny likes at 15-1. And the 7 is Blazing Sevens, which, you could go with poetic, justice there and say, coming out of the 7-hole almost, is an omen. All right. No exactas, no trifectas, no searching for the big kahuna, pick fives, pick sixes. Is that with you on that one, Greek?
I don't do that, but I'll do 2-5-7 Yankees that I hit that big parlay. Jeter, DiMaggio, and Mantle.
Nice.
$4 exactly.
Okay, so you're going Yankee numbers again. That's cool too. My friend, the Polyman, a dear friend over many years, used to have great success using dead Yankee numbers on the roulette wheel. Which obviously, he was playing pretty much all of that first third of the board there because they were all low numbers that were being worn by the significant Yankee players. All right, Heat and Celtics, 8.5, Greek. That's a very generous allotment of points. I thought that was the case in game number one. I didn't make any moves on that. Heat on the money line obviously was a play.
Yeah.
This has been pretty common, although Lubie has a theory and he has a trend there that the Heat always mail in this second game after they win the first one on the road.
They usually do, so I'd probably take Boston tonight, but I think the Heat are playing great. I like the Heat, like I said. I'm going to have to buzz because I'm getting called by somebody 3 times.
All right. Yeah.
We'll talk to you.
Okay. All right. Very good, Greek. Greek, somebody needs money. Desperation time. Thank goodness I didn't play this pool, man. Imagine that 2 of my guys. And what a bonehead decision. I never win with that decision, Rahm or Scheffler or Rahm. Whichever way I go, you need to go the opposite way on that one. And that's always going to be a choice in this kind of circumstance. And usually a choice. I mean, the professor backed off of betting Scheffler because he was only 7-1 to win the tournament. 7-1 would normally be a pretty good price. I mean, if you're betting a horse race, you'll take 7-1 all day long, will you not?
Well, and again, if he wins, then okay. Who cares what the odds were? But yes. I get it in golf. Like you want to go
only one guy can win. So if he's 7-1, so be it, right? I mean, the chances are, far more prohibitive in a field of like 150. Then I don't know how many people teed off in the PGA, but I would imagine it's as large a field as you could get because they include all of these club pros and things that qualify from around the country. Kind of a nice, sidebar story to everything. Hey, look at this. Mo Schmenk is 6 under. Can you believe that? This is a guy who's been giving lessons to 3-year-olds over there, some club outside of Rochester there. In fact, he's very big in Buffalo. They're like, what? Who the hell is this guy? He's atop the leaderboard. So that's kind of a nice aspect of the PGA. You have all these guys in there, but 7-1, yeah. I mean, it's kind of like playing a guy. I'd be like playing a horse at 3-5, I guess, in golf. But that's a generous price. If I can remember cashing 14-1 on Spieth in that British Open that the professor lost when he had Matt Kuchar at like 60-1.
Screwed, yeah.
Yeah. And, the good thing I wasn't watching that final round with the professor. Can you imagine? That was a more outrageous ruling than anything we saw in that Panther game last night. The Ekblad hit was just a knockout blow. He looked like Ty Domi on that thing compared to, this ridiculous ruling by the PGA. I guess that wasn't PGA. That was some international golf governing body that said that Matt Kuchar could move his ball from being just buried in what looked to me like one of those garbage dumps, no?
Yes.
He was on like a mound of shit with papers sticking out of it and vultures hanging overhead. and his ball was literally drilled like 6 feet into the ground. And he said, okay, that's a, pick and clean and move it right into the middle of the fairway. It wasn't even club lengths. They had like a giant measuring stick, like a tape measure, and they let him move the ball like 40 yards.
Yep.
And the next thing you know, he's hitting from the middle of the fairway there. He knocks it in for a birdie, and Kuchar gets screwed. And I think he lost it by a shot.
That was a joke.
But what was wrong with getting 14-1?
No, 14-1's nice.
Yeah. I mean, on the favorite? Are you kidding me? That's the
look, in golf, it's such a wide open thing, especially now that there's not a Tiger that you want the longest odds. You want like 14 or 15-1 or higher. But I don't know. I had a weird feeling about Scheffler. It's just this guy's weird. Like, he's not only good, but like,
steady, very steady.
He doesn't do well for 2 or 3 tournaments. Okay, this is his time. We'll see. I mean, it's round 1. There's a lot that can happen.
Well, and Jim Sarney, of course, on top of this thing, posted Eric Cole has dropped to 3 under. So currently DeChambeau. Wow. See, now that would have taken there was no reason to really like DeChambeau here based on his form on the Live Tour because I don't think he's done anything since he signed there.
Nothing.
And he was tailing off as he was finishing up his tenure there on the PGA Tour. In fact, wasn't there some question as to whether he was he was ever going to be, even close to that level again when he was just tearing up the courses. Literally, I mean, he was like a buzzsaw through the trees.
Yep.
Trees would crack and the ball would still keep traveling. I mean, he was hitting the ball so hard. All right, the professor says, thank you very much for dredging up that ugly memory of the Kuchar incident. Right there in the professor's gambling history with the Argentine tango takedown in mind.
It's up there.
Where you're just sitting on a beautiful score.
Yeah, it was.
Could it be any better than making it in golf? I mean, think about that. That's one of the interesting aspects of all this expansion of degeneracy, is that you're betting sports you would never even think of, right? I mean, who would think of betting golf? Except it happens to be one of the more exciting bets that you could make if you're in it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think you do want a quick death. I mean, I'm glad I grabbed the embalming fluid yesterday with Jason Day. And give the professor that 20, will you?
I have the money.
You are human Zell on this one, Lubie.
I forgot. We started talking about this and that. We have very deep conversations when we're on the way there and back about society. And I forgot about the 20. I have the 20, and I will make sure you did your job. I will get it to Ken the next time I see him.
All right. I mean, I whipped it right out yesterday. Did
you did well. It's there. I have it. I promise.
All right, we're coming back with the professor in a moment here on a Degenerate Friday. The big board, and you mentioned something. You kind of teased it a little bit there.
It wasn't on purpose. It was just in reference to what we're talking about. I don't know what he did or if he went there, so I'm not even getting near it. I like giving him free reign and not stepping on it at all. So,
I'm thinking he hammered the Heat on the money line with his overall hatred of all Boston sports.
He hates Boston. Yeah, he does hate Boston. And he will.
If that professor was in the NBA, he would refuse to wear the number 6 on his uniform.
For Russell, yeah.
Honoring the memory of
fuck
recently departed Bill Russell.
That G League player.
All right, back with more in a moment with the professor. And now that.
We're Jeremy Lin.
Yeah. It's 7:52. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Are you looking to buy your first home? Have you been turned down for a loan? Do you need to refinance or get money out of your home? Call Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. He's been helping the South Florida community get mortgages for 30 years.
Hi, this is Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. We have the most competitive fixed rates in the market. Call me 24/7, 561-441-2730. And remember, I don't just work banking hours. To make the right choice for your home, call Choice Mortgage today.
If Brian Flores had just kept his mouth shut, collected his $100,000 per loss checks, and done his job, that was what you were hired for, asshole. You weren't down here to compete. You weren't down here to try to win games. You were hired to lose games so we could get the number 1 pick in the draft, you piece of trash. And then you've got the nerve to sue your boss because you refuse to lose your boss's instruction. And you know what? I hope you stay with the Pittsburgh Steelers, because I hope Joe Burrow kicks your ass twice a year for the rest of your life, because that's what you deserve for not doing your job, you piece of garbage.
Well stated, Professor. All right, I can't even imagine where we're going with number 1.
Honestly, can you imagine if you're the Arizona Cardinals right now and you are getting ready to possibly hire this man as your head coach? If I'm Kyler Murray's agent, I'm calling the Cardinals front office and say, that's fine, trade my client right fucking now. Do not put this bum anywhere near my player who you just signed for $200 million. Do not put this piece of garbage If I see Ryan Fitzpatrick in Las Vegas because it's 100 miles from Phoenix, I want everybody in the front office fired or my client out of this franchise.
The best way to kick off your day is with Defo plus Lubie. We now return to the Defo Show.
As usual, the professor sitting on the fence there and his opinion on Brian Flores. Those were tempered comments, too, which, it was very gracious of him to tone it down a little bit for broadcast purposes. Professor, how are you, my friend? I'm sorry to dredge up that memory.
Yeah, I was doing great until like the twice a year where I have to be reminded between you and PC of that goddamn Jordan Spieth Matt Kuchar incident where you didn't even literally he hits it onto the wrong fucking fairway. He's like on 14, he hits it onto the fairway in 13, and then they stopped the tournament for like an hour because the TV tower is now blocking his approach from the wrong fairway to the fucking green. And somehow that's a problem. I think there should be a penalty if you hit on the goddamn wrong fairway. But like, no, the TV tower's in the way, so let's just let him drop the ball on the fairway. And so, oh my God. Yeah. I mean,
I think they even erected that tower after the shot was hit.
Honestly, he shot like it was one of those situations. If you're watching it live, you're like, okay, the best he can do here is like take an 8.
Yes.
There's no way he's going to do better than an 8 on this. He's fucked up his drive that badly. And then they come up with this asinine ruling because the TV tower was blocking. Yeah, the fucking TV tower is blocking him because he hit it into the parking lot.
Yeah.
I mean,
the ball was festering in muck. It really was. I mean, it was so buried.
Unbelievable.
So bad. It helped Defo and
but Defo and PC have said to me repeatedly, like they feel bad about winning that one.
I don't feel badly about it. I feel bad
it was
for
like
you,
on
though.
a criminal call. Yeah. Like Kuchar. I mean, honestly, I don't even feel that
it's
bad.
The worst
for me.
call
I feel
ever.
bad for Matt Kuchar,
yeah.
who has never contended since.
But I
got to disagree with you a little bit here.
What's that?
And that is golf is getting to the point where it's unfucking bettable because I have never seen odds this low, and it is the same thing every tournament. And these two assholes are at the top of the league. You got Fatso McSpanish, who is there all the time. And if he's not, the nerd from Texas with the dentist's name, and they both go off like 7-1, 7.5-1. Every freaking major, and one of the two of them is in the top 2 every tournament. It's really annoying, and they're going off at odds lower than like Prime Tiger was going off. It's crazy, but between the two of them, you could pretty much count that like on Sunday going in the last 5 holes, one of the two of them is going to be right in the thick for the title. So compliments to them on that. But in terms of betting on it, it's just not fun, honestly. Like I mean, really. Freaking Rahm's a fat guy. We can't have a fat guy injury. Like he can't tear a meniscus.
I think he's trimmed down a little bit. Yeah, he's deceptively
Scheffler, honestly, he's got the name of a dentist. He looks like a dentist. He's got a personality that makes most dentists seem entertaining. I saw his interview yesterday, and I was like, wow, even for a golfer being interviewed by Marty Smith, that's bad.
That's really bad. Yeah, I mean, and your dentist's personality, it's particularly grating because you can't tell him to knock it off. The small talk.
No,
Just pull it to
again.
it,
I don't even know.
That's right.
I don't think this is like a put on for sponsors. I think Scotty Scheffler is just like as boring as his name is. He
Very
acts
much so.
like a dude named Scotty Scheffler who's been an ace golfer all his life, and he's not one of he's Dennis Rodman. He ain't like.
Well, I mean, you can't bet exactas in golf, but DeChambeau had to be a long price. I don't know if he's going to stay.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he was a huge price, but again, talk about dudes who look like they have a degenerative disease. What has he lost? Like 7?
I didn't see him. I didn't see any of the coverage.
Sarny.
I know. Lubie hinted at. Did you hint at the big board? I told you.
I didn't hint at anything. I just
big board. Look, if Bryson DeChambeau has caught AIDS, is that where?
Defo brought up DeChambeau, and I said, it's funny. Ken and I were talking about how he looks very different now, but I'll leave it there.
No, I mean, look, I did the AIDS joke yesterday, but because he is starting to look like Tom Hanks in Philadelphia, but But I mean,
is that a spot on my neck? What is that exactly? Would you care to take your shirt off?
It's very obvious that he stopped using steroids, and at the same time, he changed hats, which he was always known for that asshole,
that stupid
Hogan cap or whatever. Which okay, great, you look like a paper boy from the 1920s.
Some guys selling newspapers in New York.
You ever seen the movie 8 Men Out? You look like the little kid who's selling newspapers. Like, say it ain't so, Joe. Yeah, why do you want to wear that stupid hat? Anyway, I assume he has switched hats because his head is shrinking because of the lack of steroids.
Sarney says he lost 18 pounds in 24 days, which is not healthy at all. I don't even know what to do with that because his doctors warned him that what he was eating would shorten his life. Yeah, because he just figured that out now. Like, come on.
Well, I mean, 18 pounds in 24 days does not sound like healthy weight loss. That's not tapeworm. Like, honestly, that's like a binge and purge diet.
Yes.
18 pounds in 24 days. That's insane. And honestly, if you look at him, he looks like he's down way more than 18 pounds. He looks like he's down a good 30 or 40 pounds from where he was a couple of years ago. Yeah. But again, I mean, look, I'm not legally trying to make claims or anything, but pretty clear if, do you remember like years ago when Brian Cushing came out in the NFL draft and the next year he got caught for steroids? And literally every scout was like, well, yeah, if you told me someone in that draft cast was going to get popped for steroids, it was Brian freaking Cushing. Well, if I told you a golfer got caught from steroids, I could tell you who the number one bet would have been.
Yeah.
And it would have been Bryson DeHorse urine, like
he did balloon up. I mean, he was, kind of one of those nondescript physical types. And then all of a sudden, he looked like Schwarzenegger. He really did.
Yeah, he looked like Buff Bagwell from the old WCW days.
He would be an improbable choice. I actually looked at DeChambeau and thought, well, maybe, you throw something in there. Maybe you can turn it around.
I took a lot of, maybe shots here, and none of them paid off. So I kind of
Jason Day, that was bad. Lubie's got your 20, by the way.
I have the 20.
I saw that, too, and color me shocked that Lubie didn't pass it along.
I forgot.
I forgot all about it.
I'm not stealing.
That was the first thing he said this morning before I even said hello. He said, I forgot all about it. He said, what? He said, it's
no big deal. Look, I'm used to waiting for
months and
months on Lubie's. I think he still owes me from that Michigan-Iowa game.
Yeah,
Matter of fact, I absolutely
2020 pre-pandemic.
I absolutely know for 100% fact he still owes Gia a stick for filling in for him on trivia. That was like probably literally a year ago at this point. I think that was for his wedding.
He's the first to hound you, though,
his honeymoon.
Cash too, his way.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I know.
Anyway, I mean, look, the PGA, it's tough to get excited about this particular leaderboard because Scheffler at this point looks completely inevitable. We'll see if one of these other guys can stick around and make a move. Although with the difficulty of this course, I'm looking at a lot of these dudes who you have to anticipate them going immediately backwards.
You would think, yeah.
And let's be honest,
I would have been out of the pool if I had bet it because I would have had Rahm over Scheffler. That's a 9-stroke differential, and Jason Day. I mean, the one problem there was that you were thinking most guys, you rarely see a guy go back to back, and but he was playing well enough. I thought maybe he could crack through. So that was a 20 that went quickly up in smoke. At what?
See, this is actually my problem with this particular leaderboard is the dudes who are there who could theoretically stick around are all guys I despise. So I don't want to see them with.
That's the other thing.
DeChambeau and Dustin Johnson and Justin Thomas. It's like the douchebag collection at the Capitol Grill on a Friday night. Like, I would rather see the dentist win another one than see any one of those jerk-offs pick up another major title. So, I since I don't have a financial interest, I find myself in a difficult spot, and maybe this Aussie kid can stick on this. Although from what I saw at Sarney, he's already going backwards this morning. Yeah. So,
and things could change dramatically there. We know that.
Let's hope so.
Look, they were all half of the guys were dealing with frostbite that went out early, and the tournament had to be delayed because it was too freaking cold in Rochester, which is interesting because you're looking at your calendar and going, "Isn't it May 18th?"
Yeah, because
But having come from my experience there at Syracuse, where you could have a blizzard at the beginning of May, it wouldn't be uncommon.
Again, I was just in Lake Tahoe at the beginning of May, and we literally walked into a blizzard. So
nice.
I
like the fact you walked right out though to Vegas. That was good planning. That was very
Well,
sharp.
that's where we were flying in and out of anyway, so
okay.
squeeze in a couple extra days. Speaking of which, do we
Yeah.
have the steam? Do we have the Polyman picks?
No, we don't.
No, not yet.
The public needs the Polyman specials for the.
I'm gonna have to
coming up
send
here.
out a text here sometime during the show, and see if we can get them. But I'll pass them along to you for sure, because naturally you want to get involved here, right? And you're coming off probably.
Isn't the Preakness the worst of the three? It's usually
I believe so.
Horses.
Derby winner's always massively overbet. My experience is the Preakness of the three is probably the weakest betting race.
Well, and also you have a field of 8 here, of which 5 are kind of being discounted, or 4 of them. So yeah, no, very tough. Unless I'm thinking naturally I'm going to try to outsmart myself and bet against Mage, figuring that this bunch of horses probably end up beating each other as they did throughout the season leading up to it. And the most dominant horse was Forte. Mage, has run 2 really good races back to back. I mean, just got beaten by Forte, who people thought was a monster, and then won the Kentucky Derby against a field of 17 opponents. But yeah, I'm going to go against him. I don't know what there is though that is going to blow up the board though. The Preakness, actually, I didn't realize this, that the highest payoff in Preakness history is only like $46 or something like that.
There
you don't see the enormous bombs that you might in the Belmont when horses are badly overbet that are going for Triple Crowns, and also the Derby, which is, I think, Professor, I don't know if you agree with me, but I think, well, you probably do after this year, it's the greatest betting opportunity, win or lose, that you could possibly be presented with all year long.
I mean, it's right up there. I mean, there's probably a few other events throughout the course of the year, but yeah, it's rare to get one as annually good as the Derby is.
Yeah, because there's going to be the balloon factor, and then the pools are so swollen with cash, and a lot of it being from novice interests. Not that they can't hit by accident on a long shot just as easily as they gravitate towards the favorite, but there's a natural gravitation towards the favorite. And then it's great too when the NBC handicappers all come on and give you Tappet Trice,
well,
who I believe is still running.
I remember the year we were there because we went up for the NFL draft with CJ and Garrison. We went down to the Derby. American Pharaoh, who was the favorite, won the race, and the payoffs were still good. It was still like $150 exacta. The try was like $400. The super was like $3 or $4 so you had, the dominant Triple Crown horse win and still got really good prices out of it.
Yeah.
So, I'd have to sit here and think about like what's the single best, but certainly the Derby, if it's not the best, it's got to be right up there with anything.
Yeah, I mean, even if you have an enormous opinion on a team that's being completely disrespected, like
the Miami Heat?
Yeah, and the
ESPN
Florida
97% chance that the
what was
Boston
that based
Celtics
on,
will win.
How could they say that the Heat only had a 3%
based on Kendrick Perkins and the rest of the Celtics jerk-offs getting into the circle jerk and talking about how fantastic. Lubie and I were talking about this last night. My personal perception of this Boston Celtics roster and ESPN and the NBA media's perception are like 2 entirely different planets. I don't they talk this team up like it's an A+ team, like it's a championship team. It's as good as anybody. I don't see that at all. I think, do they have a better roster than Miami Heat? Probably, but it's a B+ A- or a B+ B situation. It's not like an A+ versus a C situation.
No.
And then you get into individual players like Boston. People talk up Marcus Smart like he's a top 5 point guard. I think the guy is an offensive disaster who overall is he's a great defensive player, but most nights he's completely incompetent offensively. Like they have a nice roster, but I don't see it as like this dynasty in the making type of franchise at all.
No, and you do get some inconsistency from Jason Tatum, who we saw was worthless throughout most of that Game 6 against the Philadelphia 76ers. And then
it was worthless for the first 5.5 games of that series. Again, he got blazing hot in the fourth quarter of Game 6 and it ran through Game 7. But I think what you saw in Game 1 is basically your standard Jason Tatum game. Yes, he's a talented scorer, but he's a volume scorer. He doesn't really get other players involved in the offense. And for and Lubie and I were talking about this yesterday, I don't know, because I like the guy and I have liked the guy's basketball opinion through the years. I don't know how Stan Van Gundy got his nose jammed so far up the Boston Celtics' ass the last few years. But he's on there the other night talking about, well, every player on this Boston team is an all-defensive team kind of. But really, Jason Tatum's an all-defensive team? No.
Eric White, like
he's
he
like
doesn't even hang out at that end.
Defensive player.
Yeah.
Like,
it's old to see.
Again, Marcus Smart is an elite defender. Williams is somewhere between a good and an elite defender. I wouldn't put him in the elite category. Like I said, good, who had some moments. Jaylen Brown, to me, is a guy who, for whatever reason, doesn't always focus. He's like, one night he's an offensive guy, the next night he's a defensive guy. When he's a defensive guy, he's very good at it. But those are the only guys I would say are like really top-end defenders on this Boston roster. But I hear Van Gundy going on about it, and you would think, I don't know, this is the 85 Bears playing in Boston 25 years later. Like, insane.
Well, and I'm a big Van Gundy fan. We kind of discovered Stan many, many years ago when he was like the fourth level assistant with the Heat, and I was stuck for guests. I was doing a Sunday morning 4-hour show on WIOD, and that was when radio was popular enough that, you know, you would at least have a strong enough audience to carry you through the show with telephone calls and whatever. But I would bring in guests for like an hour, and Stan was one of the guys I sort of discovered there. And I thought, wow, this guy's great. I mean, he was a brilliant commentator, but you're right. I mean, he does seem to have developed an unusually lopsided bias towards the Celtics in talking about how great each and every one of these guys are.
And it's a long-running thing. He's been like this with them since the bubble. Like, he's a guy whose opinion I genuinely respect, and as a media personality, I've always liked him. I've liked him. All the guest work he's done as an analyst, his podcast, I've enjoyed his work for the most part. But like, again, he's had his head stuck so far up Boston's ass for the last few years. I don't get it. I don't see this series the same way the national media seems to see this series at all. I think like your best case scenario is whoever wins. And I'm not saying the Heat are necessarily going to win. It's going to be a 6 or 7 game series where every game is close. I mean, it's going to be much like last year's series, where like 3 shots will probably determine who wins and who loses this series.
8.5, is that total disrespect?
I'm not going to worry about tonight. The game 2 after a home loss thing has played very strong this year. Every team who's played a game 2 after losing at home and game 1, I think it's all straight covers too, and there's been some blowouts. I would expect a very Boston-centric whistle tonight, and I would expect the Celtics to get a win, so I probably won't get involved with the 9. And plus, let's be honest, the Heat have always had that Pat Riley mentality that if you get it done in game 1, game 2's kind of just gravy.
Take the night off,
guys. Worry about it. So I'm looking more at the series overall, and you know, in game 3 being pivotal coming back down here than I am worried about tonight. If you're going to gun ahead and make me take it, I'd take 9 points on either team every game in this series, to be honest, because I don't think you can bet for a blowout on either side of this particular matchup, but I would probably pass tonight.
All right. Did you make it through last night's Panther game? Are you inclined to watch?
I did. I was up till 2:30 in the morning watching that goddamn thing.
Really? You're not watching the games, even when
I'm
it's
trying to get into the Panthers. I admit I watched the Lakers and the Nuggets first, and then I went to Panthers, which was going into, I think it had the first overtime had just started when I flipped over full time. But I did stay up through it. Honestly, those overtimes were pretty freaking brutal.
Unbelievable, yeah.
Like, I mean, there weren't even that many chances to score, really. And look, hockey dudes amaze me because you don't really necessarily you think of them more as like these Canadian goons and not these elite athletes. How you do that for like an extra game, but and not just collapse. I mean, if you watch the end of the Nuggets-Lakers game last night,
they were
like literally every starter on both sides of the floor looked like they were getting ready to pass out at the end of that game. Jokic looked like he was going to have a heart attack at the end of that game. But these hockey guys, they play a whole extra game plus some, and they just keep going.
And the pace didn't slow down. Yeah.
No, it was more active.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible. I mean, I made it through 3 overtimes, and then I couldn't take it anymore. And I wouldn't have made it all the way through the 4th one until the score came. I love the fact that, and you know, this naturally caught my attention. At what point? I mean, what is more of a threat right now? The Republicans with the debt ceiling about to expire, or DraftKings and FanDuel betting, telling you to bet like who's going to score the goal there after you've already invested money in a game, probably on various fronts, and then you're now sending it in on who gets
honestly,
the goal
I
in
gotta
overtime.
say, and I don't think it's necessarily going to be this time. You look at the way the markets are reacting. You look at the way, really, the whole financial system is reacting, and there seems to be an attitude of, well, even if we do go into default, things will work out.
Yeah.
And I feel like we have this mentality. People a little younger than me who lived through 2008 but weren't necessarily deep into their financial lives lived through what could have been a global depression and came out on the other side relatively quickly. And then at the beginning of COVID, we went through a little mini depression for a couple months, but almost instantaneously bounced back. I think we've gotten into this mentality where people don't understand the potential consequences of the games we're fucking playing. With issues like the debt ceiling. And one of these days, someone's going to push it too far, and it's not going to be a little 1 year bounce back recession. It's going to be Japan. It's going to be, a 20-year recession followed by another 20 years of stagflation, and it's really going to destroy the global economy. Look, Lubie and I were talking about this a little last night. I hate it on both sides because I think the Democrats are making some pretty unreasonable positions on here too. The whole, well, how dare you insist on people, able-bodied people who have welfare working for their welfare? Well, that doesn't seem like that unreasonable demand to me. You can't feed and house yourself. Your dignity doesn't mean a whole hell of a lot to me, to be brutally honest about it. And I think anybody who's like ever gone to the Walmart grocery center has seen some of the games that get played with those freaking food stamp cards and get a little upset about it while the woman buys, $50 worth of chicken on her food stamp card. And then the next one behind it has, another $100 that she's paying in cash for cigarettes and ice cream. And definitely will drive you nuts if you've ever been to one of those Walmart grocery centers. So, I have sympathies on both sides, but we got to stop playing games with these situations before something happens that we don't bounce right back from.
Not a good time to be fooling around with this nonsense. All right. Any predictions then? Any official picks?
We got a lot of them this week. We got a lot of Aussie football action this week. A lot of lines we like, so we're going to give out a couple extras. We don't normally do this here on the show. We pretty stay disciplined, but we like Geelong -7.5 over Fremantle. We like Richmond -8.5 over Essendon. We like Collingwood, our favorite, the Magpies, 15.5 over Carlton, and we like St. Kilda 6.5 over the Giants, over the Great Western Sydney Giants. So we're actually giving out 4 this week in Aussie rules. Once again, that's Geelong, Richmond, Collingwood, who you can put us down for pretty much every week. We are Magpies fans, and St. Kilda, the Saints.
All right, I'm in on a 14 parlay on that. If Lubie ever gives you the 20, maybe you can go ahead and front me that again. No, I don't want the 14 parlay. I did see a feature on this guy. He's like 6'6". He's a big star in Aussie rules football. He was a former basketball player, I guess, here in the States.
He's not 6'6". He's 6'11", and he's Collingwood's ruckman. And he is already, he's only like in his, I don't know if call it his second year or his year and a half or whatever. He's already the best American who's ever played this game.
He was featured, I believe, on 60 Minutes, and that is no game for the faint of heart or physicality, man.
No.
They are knocking the shit out of each other.
Anthony Davis would not like that sport. He's glad he's good at basketball and not field American
Ray Nitschke wouldn't fare well. Yeah.
Who had to go over there. Yeah, and usually it's basketball players because with Americans they want the super tall guys. They want the ruckmen. But usually in Aussie rules it's like 6'8" or bigger. So you're talking about failed centers. But yeah, he's off to an amazing start and a big part of the Magpies turnaround this season.
I could not believe the physical beating that these guys were administering to each other with no pads.
I don't know what Lubie's laughing at. Lubie always laughs at my Aussie picks.
Andy's like, Ken, who do you like in Temple Kolami versus Young Israel of Sydney?
I don't think they allow Jews in Australia. I could be wrong. I don't know if I've ever met an Australian Jew.
There's always some kind of, suspicions about the
No, well, I mean, look, let's be honest.
play. The level of play in those
terms
leagues.
of immigration, the
Yeah.
Jews have been pretty smart over the years. I don't think they're going to a land that's just infested with crocodiles and sharks and where basically everything that lives there naturally wants to kill you. Yeah, I don't think that's a population that's emigrating.
Nobody named Schwartz on the Fremantle roster, you're saying? All right, Professor, is that it on the predictions, or
would die?
Well, yeah, we're only giving away. We gave away 4 games.
Okay,
Four
all
else
right,
you will
good.
spend.
I didn't
How
know if
much
you were going
better
to
do you want us
expand
to
into.
do here?
I thought maybe you had an opinion on the Vegas Stars game
We
tonight.
actually made a nice score on the XFL championship game, so we'll be delving into the USFL. Yeah, we made a nice score on the XFL title game because Arlington was getting 8, and they were starting Luis Perez, who was really good in the USFL if you watched him last year.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, the better quarterback's playing for the underdog, +8. And, of course, he's the MVP of the game. They won the game straight up, so it's a nice little score there.
Beautiful.
Thank you,
Only
Dwayne "The
you.
Rock" Johnson, for bringing back the XFL.
There you go.
And all you got scrubby football all off season long.
It makes up for some of those lame movies that he's been making for Disney. The Rock, all of these years, making a fortune. Incredible. Still remember interviewing The Rock. We were desperate for a guest, and they had thrown us virtually everybody. And so they tell us, my buddy and I were doing a bunch of programs about what was the Kickoff Classic, the original one that was in. And they say, all right, we're going to send you out to Dwayne Johnson. Not to say that we had greased the SID to make sure that we got plenty of guests because we had a lot of time to fill.
This was when he was playing at Miami or when he was a wrestler?
He was playing at Miami.
Okay.
And we're talking to him outside, and we're asking him about his aspirations, as an NFL player possibly. And I remember being somewhat taken back, almost stunned when he said, I'm actually thinking about going into professional wrestling.
I mean, given his family background, that certainly makes sense.
I wasn't unaware of his background at the time. He went.
His name's Johnson.
Illustrated that, and then I was like, oh yeah, and then he did it. So that was that was pretty weird because you're not expecting a guy to become that kind of a monster. Who we had reluctantly consented to interview on the side of the Hecht Athletic Center for show number 4. Leading into the Kickoff Classic. Here's Dwayne Johnson. And
I mean, honestly, among Canes of that era, I mean, I would think he'd be one of the better personalities to interview. He wasn't one of the better players, but, in terms of a guy with some skills at the microphone, he probably one of the ones they were happy to pass along.
Yeah. No, he had all the right elements there. He wasn't a bad player. I think he was like a second-string defensive end. But used to come in and make viable contributions.
He was the backup to what was his name? He was there for like Rusty Madera, Rusty something, who was like the Kane sack guy for like 9 years. He somehow managed to be there from like Jim Kelly through Craig Erickson the whole time.
No down on a Pell Grant, at the time too. A Charlie Pell Grant.
Rusty Medeiros.
Rusty Medeiros, yeah, that was the guy. All right, big board this week. Lubie gave us a little bit of an inclination. I don't know if it was misleading or what.
I'm curious what inclination Lubie gave you.
He mentioned DeChambeau and,
it's interesting because we were thinking about doing an official investigation into Bryson DeChambeau. But there's another topic that we felt required an investigation this week that has been widely discussed. And we think a lot of people out there trying to moralize in the sports media may have gotten this story wrong and may be being offensive at the same time. So we're trying something new this week. This is our first official big board investigation. And Lubie already warned us about content on this. So we're being very careful. But it is the first official big board investigation. And it's the big board investigation. Is Ja Morant retarded?
All right. We want to issue a disclaimer here.
I told him I thought you.
There's a certain word.
The use of the word retarded is the idea of only the professor.
What? No, wait, whoa. I was told that word was fine. I told it was the shorter version of that word I couldn't use was the offensive.
Oh, that's
retarded could be, his progress was retarded by the fact that he was carrying a few extra pounds.
That's true. You did extend out the word. You didn't.
All right. We'll put it in that context then. And we don't have to issue the disclaimer. All right.
Let's take that again. We're not drawing judgment. We're not trying to ridicule anybody. We feel this is a topic that needs to be looked at, analyzed from a scientific and the data needs to be discussed. So we'll start with number 5, which is, of course, a picture of the latest incident where, once again, Ja Morant is a passenger in a car and has a loaded gun. This was live on Instagram. It is worth noting here that almost every incident John Morant has been involved in, he has been not the driver, but a passenger in the car. The Indiana Pacers incident, it was the driver of the car who allegedly flashed a gun at the Indiana Pacers team bus. The mall incident, he was not the driver. He was a passenger in a Cadillac Escalade where he brought 9 of his boys to come fight finish line workers because of his mom. The strip club incident, he took a limo to the strip club, well documented. It leads us to the question, does John Morant know how to drive? Or we know from various NBA lifestyle thing, he has several cars, but it doesn't appear he ever drives any of them, which makes me wonder, does he maybe have a problem reading the letters on the eye chart to pass a driver's test? Is there a law somewhere in the state of Tennessee about mental requirements and your ability to drive? Is John Morant incapable of passing a driver's test? Does John Morant know how to drive? We know he has cars. We know his boys appear to drive his cars all the freaking time, but we can't find any evidence that John Morant knows how to drive.
Therefore, I mean, could he be retarded?
And it leads us
in that capacity.
Again, it's just one of several data points we're going to discuss some others.
I mean, he really is. He should be contacting AC Cowlings instead.
I'm just saying, if you're looking at a data point, not being able to drive does lead you in a certain direction on this question. As does, perhaps, and this is number 4, his housing situation. On the left, you see John Morant's house that he bought with his first contract in Memphis. It is a $10 million, 12,000 square foot house. So what did he do? He bought the house next door for his parents, which is also 12,000 square feet. As you see, they are near identical houses. Here's my question. You're a young man in your 20s who, with your participation in strippers, clearly likes to freak down and get party. Why the hell do you want your mom and dad living next door to you? I'm not saying you shouldn't buy. I'm not saying you shouldn't buy your parents a house. You should buy your parents a house. I'm not saying you shouldn't buy them a house somewhere close to you, same neighborhood, sure. But do you really want mom and dad just walking over randomly? My guess, it's because mom's cooking the meals, mom's doing the laundry, mom's taking care of the houses. So in a weird sort of way, John Morant is a man in his mid-20s worth an estimated $200 million who's still living with his parents. Once again, in terms of the root question, or is John not retarded? This would lead you in a certain direction.
Parents still, doing most of the work.
Essentially, still living with mom and dad. Speaking of mom and dad, because obviously there's a genetic factor involved in this question.
Yeah.
So remember, one of John Morant's incidents because John Morant's mom started a brawl at the mall, at a finish line in the mall. Yeah. We have some questions here. Number 1, who the hell still goes to the mall in 2023? But more importantly,
still exists.
In terms of
you're looking for trouble if you're going to a mall.
Pointers and execution, like, why are you going to a finish line? Your son is a Nike athlete. All you have to do is call up Nike, and anything they sell at finish line, Nike will have delivered to your home, probably within hours, certainly the next day. Why the hell are you going to mall and spending? For those who don't know, by the way, because we don't have a lot of them in Florida, Finish Line is essentially Foot Locker. They're basically the same store.
We used to have a lot of them.
Why the hell are you going to Foot Locker if your son is a Nike athlete? If your son has Phil Knight's number and could call him up and say, hey, Phil, I need 10 sweatsuits and 12 pairs of sneakers and what, and Phil will have them delivered to your house. Why the hell are you going to a mall and fighting with the employees at a Finish Line store? I'm going to say that is indicative, genetically speaking, of a certain lack of intellectual capacity. If I can get shit for free delivered to home, I don't care how rich I am. I'm not going to the mall to buy it.
No.
If I can call up Publix and they'll bring food to my house, I'm never setting foot in a fucking Publix ever again. And they'll bring it to my house for free? I mean, what the hell? I'm never walking into one of your stores again. Why is his mom in a mall at a Finish Line? Much less starting fights when you can get all this shit for free anyway. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It's a little illogical, and once again, points us in a certain direction.
Well, and that's the thing. Anytime they have any kind of at-home shot, or feature on some athlete, he usually has like 300 pairs of sneakers in cases that he's never even worn.
Because Nike sends them for free.
Right.
Because you don't have to pay for them. Again, so why is your mom at the Foot Locker buying sneakers and sweatsuits?
Reek of mental impairment, no question about it.
All right.
Yeah.
Next one. Here's where we start to dive deep into the science. And that's number 2 because
You're like Barry Scheck with a
we
stack of
actually
DNA here. This is great.
do a Google search here and found out that in non-basketball events, Ja Morant is shirtless in 66% of his online photos that don't involve actively playing the sport of basketball. Of course, when he's playing a game, he has to wear a jersey. You get fined and kicked out of the game if you don't wear a jersey. But 66% of his non-basketball playing photographs online are Ja Morant shirtless. And you're asking, what's the connection? Well, I'm glad we have an extra slide on this one for you. This is 2A. This was research done by the Haynes Corporation back in the 1990s. And on here on a graph, correlating on the vertical axis, IQ points, and on the horizontal axis, the percentage of time you're shirtless in public as a man. Now, if you're wondering what's
the Mendoza line there?
You're wondering what the black line is. That is an IQ of 70, which according to United States statistics, if you're beneath 70 IQ, that is the point where you legally qualify as mentally disabled.
All right.
And you'll notice on the shirt, the circle, that is where Ja Morant's shirtlessness rates in terms of his public profile.
Right there in the bubble.
Which puts his IQ somewhere around the 60 mark, which again, I'm just interpreting these statistics. I did not. This is just
you sure you didn't make that graph up, Professor? Where did you find that?
It's research provided by the Haynes Corporation back in the 1990s, market research. And anybody who's ever watched an episode of Cops knows the stupidest people in the history of television show Cops, which is a collection of the stupidest people you could pretty much find in South Florida, which rates very highly for the stupidest people on earth.
Yes.
Yeah.
The worst ones are always shirtless. So I'm inclined to agree with the scientific conclusions we've found here as illustrated on this graph. The percentage of time you spend shirtless directly correlates to your IQ. Again, on the vertical axis, IQ points. On the horizontal axis, percentage of time spent shirtless in public.
The principle behind this big board certainly, is subject to, criticism.
But a lot of time
still, some brilliant points here. I have to say.
And that takes us to number 1, which unfortunately is a word we can't use. But what is Ja Morant best known for? The unusual kind of strength that allows him to just plow through 7-foot guys who outweigh him by more than 100 pounds and dunk the basketball. Now, we're not saying this word, but there's a word that has been long known. Blank starts with an R strength, which everybody is well aware of, that Ja Morant seems to demonstrate on a near continuing basis when he's playing basketball. Seems to have, for a 150-pound man, an almost superhuman amount of strength. Again, dunking over these corn-fed white goofs who outweigh him by nearly body double. I mean, 250, 300 pounds. He's going up, he's dunking over Gasol brothers.
Yep.
There is an almost superhuman kind of strength. We're not going to use the word. You know what word we're not using today. But I would say he's an excellent example of the word we're not using, strength.
Why do I feel like, the hosts on that Bob Huggins interview right now?
No.
As we're laughing along with this. Yeah.
He does not use the word.
Now, again,
Huggins,
we wanted to be fair. We're not drawing moral conclusions here. We're not trying to ridicule anybody. We're just asking the questions because there's a lot of people making comments about Ja Morant who may be looking at this wrong, that maybe there's a disability reason that Ja Morant behaves.
You've shown all the signs.
But in interest of fairness, we wanted to reach out to Ja Morant and get his side of the story. So we contacted Ja Morant on Twitter. And to be honest, I don't know if we were speaking to Ja Morant directly or if we were speaking to Ja Morant, one of his PR people, perhaps a PR person from the Grizzlies. But we asked Ja Morant if he had ever been intellectually tested. Is there something he maybe wanted to tell us? And the tweet we received back was, "Kitty cat stole my lollipop." You'll notice in terms of pointing at indicators that both cat and lollipop are misspelled here. Which
another indication, perhaps.
We explained that we did not understand that response from Ja Morant. And could he further explain what he meant? And we got another response, which was, can we go to zoo? Again, we're not drawing any conclusions here, but we can tell you what the driver from the Rocky movies would have drawn the conclusion from that particular response.
Oh my God.
Which all points in a way that I'm just saying Charles Barkley and all these people jumping on John Morant's neck perhaps haven't considered.
Misunderstanding, yes.
Perhaps haven't looked at the data, perhaps haven't looked at the science, and that we are looking this from a moral standpoint when we could very well be dealing with a disability. So that, again, draw your own conclusions. We're only presenting the data. This is what we do here on the big board. We try to investigate things scientifically.
Yes.
Is our examination of the issue, is John Morant retarded?
I mean, because I enjoy watching him play, and kind of, wouldn't mind seeing the Memphis Grizzlies have, a chance at maybe winning something big, like the title. I'm going to send this clip to Adam Silver as the defense for John Morant against a lengthy suspension.
Again,
and I believe this evidence alone probably could knock that 41 games that people were speculating about down to 10.
Given the data points we've managed to find, perhaps some testing is in order.
Yes,
that's all I'm saying.
Very scientific in your approach today, Professor. Numbers? This wasn't just cynical, sarcastic, Professor. This was actual science.
Again, this is we have gone in a new way in the big board, which is the big board investigation.
Yes,
we may do research and do some further big board investigations somewhere down the line.
Sports Center, would be, in a good spot if they aired this piece also, because you need to balance out like the knee jerk.
Suck on that outside the lines.
There you go, man. Holy Bob Lee, man.
Well, there you go. Real sports. There's a real sports.
This is HBO, man. Bryant Gumbel is like seething right now that he didn't come up with this research himself. I mean, amazing. Where are you when I need you, Bernie? What the fuck? You're at the track interviewing crooked trainers. Brilliant as always, Professor.
You guys have a good one.
All right.
You're the
Very
best.
good. The Professor, ladies and gentlemen.
Holy shit.
A little bit of a scary topic, from the standpoint of sensitivity, but I know. Is there another way to express that without using words like retardation?
He used the word in the form that actually is scientific. I mean, it's a natural.
In terms of progress, that you possibly can make.
Has your progress retarded? That is a term. Yeah. That is not a slur in any way.
It's not like you're saying, "Hey, Lubie's a retard."
No, he did. Thank you. You just said the word that he had. I'm proud of him. He did not use that word.
But I was only using it as an example.
I don't care. Look, here's the deal. He and I talked about this early in the week, and I said, look, the thing is, I actually don't care about any of the words, but I also have been informed words hurt.
Yes,
aware of that, and we try to we push the limits here, but we don't want to offend.
No offense meant. I mean, honestly, that was hysterically funny if you really analyze it. I mean, if we could have stayed away from the sensitivity issues, then would it have hurt the piece? I'm not sure. There might be another way of putting it. He did end up with like mental impairment.
Yes.
But the line of thinking, I believe, could lead to a reasonable and rational defense of John Morant's behavior, because nobody can figure it out. That's everybody's throwing their hands up in the air and saying, "What the hell is this guy doing? What could he possibly be thinking?"
Maybe slow. And we're not even trying to be mean. We're not judging him. We're not saying it's good or bad. We're really confused. The things he's doing do not make sense. I don't care who you are; they don't make sense.
You're saying the short school bus shows up to take him to the games, yeah?
Because
that's what he's used to getting on. What do you? I mean, come on.
I didn't say that. I said this may explain it a bit for us that are confused. He gave real numbers.
Sad. It's sad that we're laughing at this. If it has an element of truth. I mean, obviously. What we don't feel is concerned about the sensitivity issues because of the natural ridiculousness of the whole contention, no? But by the time the professor got done, that's why he's a professor, I was convinced that there was some merit to it, weren't you?
What do you mean? Those are real numbers. I don't think he made that up. I think the tweets were fabricated.
The shirtless thing was good. I mean, that was very true of the show Cops and also the state of Florida, right? Every time you see some hillbilly that did some dastardly thing, and it resulted in catastrophe.
Always shirtless.
He takes no blame for it whatsoever. I'll do it again.
Always shirtless. Right. Why are you shirtless? Why? Like cops are chasing you. Wouldn't you want to wear a shirt? Like if there's ever a time you want to wear a shirt, is the time the cops are chasing you. Like that's you want to.
Yeah. Because when you go to jail, they're not giving you a shirt, man.
Yeah, well, you want to look your best. You want to show that you're not the criminal they think you are.
Yeah.
They always are shirtless. He's not wrong. They're 100%.
They deliberately make it very cold in there, also, so you're not going to feel real good about being in a jail of any type. Not that I have that much experience with it, but enough.
I don't know. I haven't been there.
Well, we got arrested for loitering here in Florida back in the day at the Castaways.
Yeah.
So I ended up spending probably like 36 hours in jail here at the Dade County. What was that called? It had some hideous name. Like that really sounded, ancient, prehistoric in terms of prison conditions. Stockade, that's what it was, right? That's where, in a Raging Bull, he ended up in the Dade County Stockade. That's where they took everybody from the Castaways. Bunch of college kids. They just wanted to break up the crowd. And I, unfortunately, was one of the ones that was standing around going, hey, what's going on here? Seems like there's a lot of hot chicks in bikinis here. Just exactly why I came to Florida in the first place. This is exactly where I want to be, precisely. And the next thing you know, we're surrounded by cop cars. They take us off, and it was a Saturday night, and they tell us, oh, by the way, you get released as soon as you go to court. But there was no court on Sunday, so now you're in there 24 hours eating Spam, man, and taking a shit on a toilet with no seat in front of 40 other guys. It was ugliness, my friend. Ugliness. But they make it deliberately cold in there, and they make sure there's 20 less blankets than you need for the number of people. And, be shirtless under those circumstances, which it easily could have been the case, right? Because you're sort of at like the equivalent of a beach party down here in Florida after coming from the Northeast and people from the Midwest.
And they don't want you to wear the shirt.
Yeah.
They get you.
They're not issuing you a prison outfit. Let's put it that way.
Nah.
Dade County Stockade, though, what a rank joint, man. That was ugly. I guess that was my sophomore year in college because there were two other guys with me. And, we all ended up getting in there and it ended up getting released on like $10 fine or something. Some ridiculous thing after spending 36 hours in jail. But my one friend with hair down to his waist went before the judge. And I think I told you this a couple of weeks ago. I was revisiting this story here about the Castaways incident. And this guy's name was Bruce. And he gets in front of the judge, this cracker judge. All they want you to do is say, yes, Your Honor. Boom, you're out. You walk out the door that minute. Yeah, they know it's a farce. And sure enough, this guy, the judge says to him, well, that's some awfully long hair that you got there, son. And Bruce fires back. I mean, we were very politically motivated to challenge authority at that point in time. Although there, just like with John Morant, there has to be a time where, just keep your mouth shut and you're out of here. You get what you want. You don't have to do anything. There's no consequence to it. It's not like when they bury you, they're going to go, hey, remember that time you wimped out in court?
Yeah, come on.
So he says, I don't think that my hair has anything to do with this particular case, sir.
Oh, Jesus.
That was it, man. He ended up back in jail for another day. Incredible. Yeah. Sometimes you just got to lay low. Jean Morant, I guess that was it. All right. We're going to come back with the Gambling Gourmet, a very sedate Gambling Gourmet, a reformed Gambling Gourmet.
Yes.
And I'm not sure it's a Gambling Gourmet that, is going to be somebody that doesn't appear to have sold out to his audience.
100%.
Yeah.
You can't build a reputation doing one thing and then get there and then go, all right, now I'm going to go the other way. No, we want you. We don't want Sting going back and playing love songs. Like, who the fuck wants that? We want Sting release. Like, we don't want Phil Collins when he left Genesis and is doing his own fucking thing in the corner. Right. We want Phil Collins that we know and love. We don't want Ringo Starr playing fucking weirdo music in like the 80s. We want Ringo with the Beatles. This is what we want. I don't know what he's doing, and it's very disappointing. Cutting up a goddamn.
It's like not the first embarrassment we've had to endure in terms of Mayo's quest for perfection.
I don't get it
in his life. Yeah.
I'm all for getting healthier, but come on, you're a wrap, which is how much carbs are in a wrap. That's the point. They tell you to eat a wrap when you're eating low carb.
Yeah, and the naked wrap. Yeah, that was ugly.
Are you kidding me?
This is it's becoming a problem for us because we like to eat when we go on these things.
Yes,
it's the best part of it. Yeah,
not even we like to. No. He set a standard of us expecting to be engorged. Don't now.
This Bert Rappaport, cool guy, man, but he couldn't have been more flabbergasted by Mayo's behavior yesterday. After seeing, he was attracted to the show for the very reasons that we don't like it. I mean, we consider it highly unprofessional, but the people seem to dig it, man. When Mayo shovels a sandwich in his face,
100%.
pizza, whatever. I mean, and they want to see slop all over,
Our biggest number of the stuff that I post on TikTok was him a grown man drinking sauce cold out of a jar.
Yeah.
Now you're going to cut up freaking what?
I'd like a little slice of lettuce with that, with chopsticks. He's taking a piece of ginger. Get the fuck out of here, man. Just eat the whole thing. All right, we'll see what happens. Could it be that he's going the way of Jean Morant? I mean,
I don't know.
I would consider Mayo to have, I'm sure he has a relatively high IQ, no? Seems like a smart guy.
I just think he's an ass.
Why does he get on these kicks, though? Always extremist. I mean, next thing you know, he had a picture of himself with a MAGA hat on the other day. What's wrong with this man?
What the fuck?
Ay, vey.
He's Meshuggah. You want to talk about Meshuggah?
Talk about an identity crisis, man. Holy Sybil. All right, coming back with that. Maybe an explanation. Not sure.
Will we get one?
Last week, the guy was so bitter, though. I thought he was on the same medication I'm on, this prednisone, which makes you, like a little bit weird.
You can't be bitter. Right now, things are great in South Florida, and things are great for him. So you can't.
Couldn't be any better, right? I mean, every day there's something's happening, some catastrophe that pays him another $100,000. Phenomenal, man.
The only man that someone pays off quickly.
What insurance company ever pays off without a bitter battle? Look, he was fighting those other schmucks for 3 years before they caved in.
Who wins?
Yeah. All right, we're coming back with the Gambling Gourmet, possibly an explanation of some bizarre behavior on his part in a moment. Now that.
The time.
And now he's all in on the Panthers. He hated them before the season started. It's 8:45.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously. Friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks, hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
He'll fight Brian Cox in the locker room. He'll challenge Bill Parcells to a verbal shout-out. He'll stare down Johnny Chan while holding pocket shoes.
And then he goes
Mike
to
Mayo,
the
the
London
Gambling
Business
Gourmet.
School for savants.
How about that? Yeah.
I will crush
London
your
School
hopes
of
and
Finance.
dreams with it.
Mike Mayo, the Gambling Gourmet, joins us here.
I do all those things, and I also crush your hopes and dreams with a 3-word text giving you the bad news about game one.
Well, this was particularly brutal, and Michael, I thank you for doing that.
The modern day odd couple, Defo and Lubie, are on now. It is, of course, the Defo Show.
All right, welcome back to the show. Oh, Jesus. All right, that's it, people. We've reached rock bottom. Yeah.
That's the answer.
Shirtless Mayo. I notice you've raised, you've gotten closer to the table here.
Hey,
Is that deliberate on your part? Your hair is kind of crushed down.
Do not
Also.
want nipple. Please do not show me.
I am here to contradict the professor's argument because I think I have a high IQ, and for some reason I'm shirtless this morning. Probably because I'm so damn tired. I forgot to get dressed.
Somebody should have shown up really verklempt on the show there. How long did you last? You didn't last to the bitter end, did you?
Look at this. I've got my platter of meats and cheeses.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Now,
Will you stop with this? I mean, you could have been included on that list with the professor as maybe suffering from a similar condition of retardation of progress in life.
I'm going to give everybody a choice. Okay, first of all, I made it through 3 overtimes like you. I was on the couch.
Yeah.
And I was nodding off here and there, but I was basically making it through. And then when they went to the 4th OT,
That
put
was
the
it.
pillow on the
Yeah.
armrest, and I just laid down, like across the couch, and that was it. I woke up, it was like 2:45, and there was some infomercial on TNT,
Yes.
and I had to go to the ESPN app, and I saw Kachuk wins it. I was like, holy crap! Like what a great run! And why
Amazing.
does everybody keep doubting these teams? And why am I shirtless? I got to put a shirt back.
Put your shirt on.
Yeah, I wish you would. Yeah, please, ladies and gentlemen, in deference to the overall quality of the program here, we're going to make sure that Mayo is at least dressed. It was embarrassing yesterday as you're doing that, Mike Mayo. I mean, it really was. Bert Rappaport even looked at you
Like, what is this?
there was something wrong with you.
Bert Rappaport was eating, and the owners rarely eat, but Bert was one of the dudes. He's grabbing tacos, he's eating it, it's dripping. He's just one of the guys. And Mayo's.
He's an interesting dude because he's one of those guys. He's a classy guy. He exudes class.
Yeah.
But he's got some, that's
he's down to earth. Yeah,
down to stories of. He must have been a wild man back in the day of
imagine
cocaine.
That was flowing in that.
If he had to go detox for like 4 months at his parents' couch after they sold raffles,
right?
That's something.
I mean, you're hanging out with El Chapo. I mean, it's crazy. It was kind of like the days back. It wasn't the same at Dania Highlight, but did you ever go down to Miami Highlight? I guess you weren't here in the early '80s. But
no,
that's when the Cocaine Cowboys were all up there in the clubhouse dining room, and there would literally be a pyramid of cocaine on the table.
Yeah.
And the waiter would serve around it, although nobody was eating. It was amazing. Like all the dinners would come, and there wasn't a bite consumed whatsoever. It was fantastic. Yeah, but I mean, the place was rocking. It was great, and this was the vibe of Miami at the time.
So anyway, I've got. Obviously, you guys are disappointed. I'm going, keto for a few weeks. I'm trying to cut out the
Who is a plate of meat and cheese? Like you went from eating oatmeal and the bagel.
Yeah. Well,
if you ate all that, though, Mike Mayo, I don't know that it matters that you didn't have. You may as well have a loaf of bread with that.
Is that better? I don't understand that.
Yes, if you just have meats and cheeses, if you cut out all the carbs, it puts your body. It doesn't even matter the calorie consumption. It puts your body in what's called the state of ketosis, and then you just
why
start
don't we hook you up
clean.
with a real dietitian and have her track your progress on the show? This way, you're forced to stick with it.
Okay, and it's not even like low sodium turkey and like. I don't even know what cheese is good for you because no cheese is good.
Cheese is 0 on this.
No cheese is good for you.
It reminds me about the old little joke about, well, what's life without cheese?
Yeah, it sucks.
Longer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly, man. I mean,
there's no way anyone's telling you. Yeah,
Jim Fix checked out after eating grape nuts. I mean, this can't be.
I'm going to give you guys an option because you seem dismayed by the prospect of the mayo with manners. I have a fork and knife. I could eat my charcuterie platter for breakfast with the fork and knife. Or I could just start shoveling it down with my fingers.
I don't mind.
Were you embarrassed to look like a fool in front of Bert Rappaport? Because it hasn't been a factor anywhere else we've been. I mean, what was the deal on that?
Yes, he's trying to not talk and truth all of a sudden. I don't mind you eating this because that's not finger food. A taco is friggin' finger food, but you wouldn't eat the friggin' wrap, so you're cutting it up.
I was not eating the tortilla shell. I'm sorry. I'm a man of, when I put my mind to something and I have discipline, and usually lasts about 4 to 5 days. So we're probably right on the edge here. Send me out to Gulfstream, and
why don't you give up betting for
exactly?
That would work.
Let's not get carried away there.
There you go. That's the one thing I've never heard you mention.
I got a gambling joke for you, Defo.
Okay, I'm ready. I need a good laugh.
So, guy's in a casino. He walks out. He bumps into a friend that was on the way out. He just looks ashen and is shaking his head. And he goes,
"On the way out, literally, or just figuratively?"
Well, he's walking out of the sports book.
I thought he meant out of life.
I can't believe what's going on. He goes, I'm 0 for 8 in my last baseball games. I'm freaking 0 for my last 6 in the NBA games. And the other guy goes, well, there's a hockey game tonight. He goes, well, I don't know anything about hockey.
That's
standard fare. Yeah, who do you like in the Preakness there, Mike Mayo?
There we go. Thank you. We're getting up to the good nitty gritty. Yeah. Well, first of all, Mage. Look, I used to have an angle in the Preakness that was pretty profitable, which is just wheel back the top 2 finishers in the Derby and play them in all in the trifectas, and using them in the first and second and first and third slots. There's a little problem with that angle lately. Like the first 2 finishers from the Derby don't even show up.
Yeah.
So
this is weird though. Is that That's not, I mean, I would imagine it's unprecedented that no Derby horse is running the Preakness, but
Well, Mage
it
is.
would
That's
have to
about it.
be no, but it would have to be fairly uncommon that only one. If is it, I can't imagine that's unprecedented because it's like the 148th renewal or something. But that is strange that only one Derby horse would take a shot here.
It seems weird, which just goes to show you the way the game has changed. That now that you have this all year long schedule where it culminates in the Breeders' Cup, that a lot of the top 3-year-olds, instead of wheeling them right back 2 weeks later for a chance at a Triple Crown, these trainers would rather go and have a staggered program leading through the summer races, the Haskell, the Travers, and then culminating in the fall in the Breeders' Cup. They're looking at the bigger picture. So my angle is shot to hell. I don't particularly like Mage on the setup in this course. I mean, he'll be coming back. I think he'll finish second or third. I don't know if he's going to win. So here we go. I like Blazing Sevens. I like Chad Brown usually brings in horses that are well meant into the Preakness. He likes to win this race, or he's done it a couple of times. Blazing Sevens was highly touted during the winter season here at Gulfstream. He didn't run a good Florida Derby at all. He was up the track, but he comes back. Next race, I think he finished third to Tappet Trice in the Bluegrass Stakes. So, if you like Tappet Trice, and Tappet Trice, okay, he never got a call during the Derby, but he finished seventh. He wasn't terrible. He just, that race, the setup was not good for Tappet Trice, but Tappet Trice is obviously a good horse. So I think Blazing Sevens is a good horse. So number 7 out of the 7 hole, Blazing Sevens is going to be my pick in the Preakness, playing it on top of the Baffert horse, because Baffert is usually also, he couldn't run at the Derby because
he has to be ready to fire Baffert. He doesn't want to come here and get embarrassed.
Yeah, that horse, what is it? National Honors?
National Treasure, I think.
National Treasure, a highly touted horse who's been a massive underachiever so far. But he's had some excuses, but he's just like been one of those real disappointments, but he's supposed to be a monster.
Yeah.
I think this is the time where Baffert might have him fully cranked and he might turn in a monstrous performance, go right to the front, and then so I guess a 7-1 exactas and use it with Mage, also the number 3 in the second and third. So, I'm going to be keying the 7s and 1s with the 3s, with the all button, but again, heavy exacted box of the 1-7 and 1-7-3. So that's
if you could hit that, you probably make a reasonable score. The 1-7 is going to pay generously, I would think. Anything with Mage out of the exacta is probably going to have an inflated payoff, but you don't get the same thing. I mean, there won't be the pools or the interest or any chance to make these gargantuan overinflated scores that you can make in the Derby if you hit anything.
Defo, you're talking to a man who put $20 into his account yesterday and then was like playing the last race at Churchill, and I scoped out a winner. I got this new angle of anytime you see a horse that scratched out, like basically was entered in a race and scratched out and then shows up a few days later or a week later, the scratch out angle. And this horse in the last race, this number 7 horse, scratched out of a race after having an excuse in his last race. He goes off at 7-1 in a field of like 9, and it seemed like a pretty even field. And I just went, I did like 5 to win in place and played some exactas with him. Next thing I know, I have $160 in my account to play
beautiful.
with.
Nice, good for you.
So it turned 20 into 160, and now I've got weekend with the Preakness, so that's good. And
sets you up perfectly, man. Now, are you inclined to play? You like that Oaks Derby double? Do you go Black-Eyed Susan to the Preakness? That might be an angle to pursue. Baffert has some monster, I think, in the Black-Eyed Susan, doesn't he?
He does have a horse, and I haven't really studied the Black-Eyed Susan completely yet. I'm looking at it on my phone.
I'm not inclined to make that bet because I never hit it. You have good success with that.
I do. I like that. And today, the Black-Eyed Susan. Oh, yeah. So we're talking about Faiza, number 9, 7-5 morning line with Baffert and Flavian Pratt. For some reason, this long shot on the outside, Towhead with Tyler Gaffleone, and Tyler won the Kentucky Oaks for Mike Maker, and this time he's on a different Mike Maker horse, Towhead. And so I'm going to play a little bit of Towhead. I'm going to play a little bit of comparative with Luis Saez for Brad Cox, listed at 12-1. And, I got to look at the field. Marlaza is an interesting horse, a Brad Cox horse with Florent Giroux aboard, but got to put personal animosity
Personal
aside,
feelings aside, man. You might
Yeah.
hate the Celtics, but if you thought they were going to win by 10 tonight, you're laying the 8.5.
Basically, I'm going to key like 5 horses. I'll do like 5 horses in the Black Eyed Susan, including the favorite, with those 2 picks in the Preakness with
strong,
the Blazing
man.
Sevens and National Treasure. Probably do like $5 doubles with that, and then that could pay nice if it comes in. So we'll see what happens.
All right. Quick prediction: Heat Celtics tonight. Would you take the points with the Heat?
Nah,
Or
that
continue
game,
to be disregarded.
Okay, first of all, let's give high praise to these local teams. What is the national media smoking or doing? Or why do they hate us? Like, are they watching that? Like, we've watched all our home teams every playoff game, and these teams are impressive. And they also have both of them, the Heat and the Panthers. Throw out the regular seasons, they both look like they have magic now. I mean, not Magic Johnson, but I mean, they have that little bit.
They're different teams playing beyond what you thought their potential was.
And let's give credit to the Panthers. First of all,
and Bobrovsky. Wow,
what it was.
What the hell?
Oh, he's on his head. You'll never hear a bad word about him again from this mouth.
No.
Until he gives up like 5 greasy goals in the
That's
first game.
only losing 5 games now to the Carolina Hurricanes, and you want to dump him again.
But it was absolutely ridiculous. First of all, the 5-on-3 was kind of ridiculous. I mean, the guy. He did cross-check him, but it's like at that point you got
very ticky-tack, man.
You could do a makeup penalty when
if he cross-checked me that hard, I would have stayed up on skates.
Yeah, he barely touched.
It was a little bit of a flopping there. So, but credit to Paul Maurice, and he's got hilarious, the right sense of humor when he did those, on the bench interviews, and I think it was like going into the third period, and they were asking about, it was when going into the second period, and at that point they were still trailing, obviously, from that goal, and he goes, "That's all right, we'll get it back when we get a 5-on-3."
They did have a little makeup penalty call there, although the Panthers, but special teams have been somewhat lame all through the postseason.
But it was just a horseshit call to call back a winning goal. Again, the guy. He got pushed into the goal. He tried to get out of the way as soon as possible. He even you saw the leg motion where he pulled his leg back, and then he tumbled out of the way, did a rapid somersault to get out of the crease. And when the puck went into the goal, had the goalie been impeded at some point? Yeah, but that was the fault of his own defense. I was bullshit about that. And I try not to be a homer, but you got to give the Panthers credit, because most teams, after that kind of adrenaline burst and you think you have the game won, and then
they would have lost right away.
You lose right away. This team, they have such grit. Okay, so the good news is the Panthers are up 2-0 because they won the game twice last night. And they actually played 2 games, with the number
more
of
than
periods.
2 games.
More than 2 games. It's more than 2 games.
The bad news is they've got to win 5 now to win the series. They've got to
exactly.
So
that was good. Good stuff, though. We made the brilliant deduction that the 2 teams appeared to be fairly even.
Yeah,
overall. After one game.
A good line.
No, it's true though. I mean, I believe that after watching 7 periods.
It's going to be a grinded out series. And look, I thought it was going to be boring when it was a mostly scoreless first period, but that's exciting. I mean,
that was good.
Anybody who doesn't appreciate playoff hockey, and I know Lubie's like going crazy. Like, could you imagine if they went to 5 OTs? How do they do this? And I love the concept of no bullshit shootouts or any of that. You play until
I don't want that.
It's a dance marathon.
Yeah,
I think they should do the 3-on-3 shit. I think you do in the regular season.
No gimmicks. I just want straight up hockey. This is.
I think they come back the next day at noon after 2 overtime periods.
They're still skating
and finish the game. Yeah, that would have been.
I think they took the same pill that Andy did last weekend. I hope they don't end up in the hospital.
You know what? They certainly looked like they were playing with a little bit of.
And meanwhile, the Heat, nobody wants to give like 3% chance pre.
That was ridiculous.
That's bullshit. Yeah. I mean, look at this team. They have the best player in Jimmy Butler. They have better coaching. I mean, Hyde summed it up perfectly. So they have the best player. They have better coaching. They have discipline. And they win another game 1 on the road. What is it going to take for people to start finally fucking believing that what you're seeing is real? Okay,
you're sounding like Lubie now. Yeah.
Well, I mean, after watching it, like I'm a big empirical evidence kind of guy. I don't like all this prognostication, but after what I've seen from both of these local teams for the last 3 weeks or a month, I mean, how could you not believe in them? They have what it takes to go all the way. Both of these teams. I mean, I don't know if the Heat could beat.
They may not,
Denver, but they can certainly beat the Celtics.
Yes.
And that's it. Tonight, however, I think they're going to lay an egg because they can afford to.
Let's see what happens. Yeah. Let's hope that pattern changes. It'd be nice to be up 2-0 on the Celtics coming back home here. You have to figure you're going to get a split, and then you've got command of the series. All right. Gulfstream Park, later on the name. I'm Mike Mayo. Don't try to influence Joe Beige into changing up what he was going to bring down. Just pick the shit off the bread. I mean, if it comes down on the sandwich, all right?
That's what I did with the tacos. I just ate the tacos.
Yeah, but that was ugliness in front of Bert Rappaport. It was embarrassing what you were doing yesterday.
No, you guys, you worry about me. You say, "Oh, Mayo, you better."
Because we're not used to seeing this Mayo, and then nobody wants to see this Mayo.
I'm not telling you to eat a bucket of fucking KFC. What I'm saying is how much carbs are in a wrap. Literally, when Shirley, who watches what she eats, and my fridge changes week to week, what the fuck's it? A wrap is what she gets when she's on her thing. A wrap is okay carbs.
This was a flour tortilla. Okay, if given a choice of eating it or not eating it, I chose not eating it. Please respect my choices.
Disgusting. All right, that's it for you, man. Enough. We'll see you at 12 o'clock. All right, we'll see everybody else at 12 o'clock here in South Florida Live. You can catch us on 5 Reasons Sports Network. I hope you put that Jeff Rimmer interview up there on 5 Reasons, did you? By any chance? Yeah, that was pretty good stuff there. As would have been very insightful and tremendous start for the Panthers last night. I mean, the differential in winning and losing that game, you would have to think from if you factor any kind of psychological components into the overall outcome of a series, can you shrug that loss off if you're Carolina? Just come right back in the next game and hammer the Panthers? It's possible.
Yeah,
I've seen it happen, but if you're Florida, you're thinking, man, we are the shit, man. We got it going on, and it seems like they're playing with that belief.
Yes,
because I thought all along they were going to end up winning that game, except for the very, very brief period of time. Once they survived the immediate aftermath of the goal being blown off in overtime, then I thought, okay, they're probably going to come out on top in this game.
I went to bed going, whatever happens with this game, I'm giving them credit because they got screwed twice. The one goal they got to start the game was a little garbage. I haven't seen a 5-on-3 the entire playoffs. Now in the Eastern Conference Finals, you're doing a 5-on-3. Like, come on, that's utterly ridiculous.
Yeah,
unless a guy is getting killed, you shouldn't throw a 5-on-3. And then,
and wasn't no, it was a delay of game. What was the original penalty? Wasn't it?
I didn't see the other one. Yeah, I came in. Yeah, I was going between the Laker.
The guy, arbitrarily flipped the puck into the stands, and then this next thing was this Ekblad cross check in front of the goal, which he barely nudged the guy. It was crazy. Yeah, it was like that fight they waved off last week that everybody's screaming about.
So the fact that they found a way to win that game was utterly ridiculous.
Yeah, that was great. All right, we'll see you at 12 o'clock today. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. That's your Degenerate Friday. Great job by the professor, the Greek earlier today, Mike Mayo, the Gambling Gourmet. And it'll be the Mike Mayo Lunchbox Show, 12 o'clock. And we'll see you from Gulfstream Park. As we leave you now that.
The time.
9:06.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.